The Hurling Pod.
On Off the Ball.
With Applegreen. Making every journey better.
Welcome along. I hope you're enjoying the Irish summer that we're having this weekend. It's due to be pretty decent for the coming week as well, which kind of gives hope that July 19th, which marks the end of the Ice Age, Snickers getting changed from marathon, the Indians being liberated from Galway, will be celebrated by Galway going to an All-Ireland final. So we've had 31 games in the championship so far, stretching all the way back to the first weekend on April the 18th, and it is now down to just two teams. It's going to be Galway or Limerick who will be going up the steps of the Hogan stand next Sunday afternoon. Galway are back in the final for the first time since 2018. You remember what happened there. Limerick won by a point in that final. And Limerick are in the decider for the first time since 2023. And a remarkable run that they're on at the moment, 6 times in 9 seasons. And as we know, their record in those finals have been intimidating so far under John Kiley. And the Hurling Pod, of course, is brought to you by Applegreen, helping you relax, recharge and enjoy the journey ahead. We'll be previewing the big game, and we're also going to talk about some of the hurling news from the week just gone as well. But before that, more importantly, James Skehill, as a farmer, as a man who's getting the turf to a certain point at the moment, because we saw you sent us certainly some work in the bog was going on. At what point is the turf at on this warmest weekend of the year so far?
I can happily report that turf 2026 is done.
Right.
Back is broke, hamstrings are torn, tractors out of diesel, deliveries are finished, and it's out. And I will say that no one, shout out to all my family, gave me a hand. No one. Not one. Not one person gave me a hand. No.
I thought you were going to say, like, no one, shout out to my family. No one complained during the whole thing. No one helped you.
Not one person gave me a hand. They all knew where I was going. They all knew what I was doing, but no. They're at this and they're at that. And they're at nothing. I know they're at nothing.
And will they be on to you for tickets now this week, or what will be the story?
I'm lambasted with tickets. If I was to go and satisfy the request for tickets, Murph, I'd need treble digits.
Yeah. Lads think you're printing them, though. That's the thing.
No shit, like. Oh, you'll get them. You'll get them. Like,
yeah.
Where am I going to get them, like?
Yeah.
Where am I going to get 104 tickets?
And it's the boys that only really want the middle of the lower Hogan, who you're like, come on now. Like, you want a ticket?
So I love. So like, if a fella asked you for one, right, or two, you'd have some respect for his request. But it's the person who during the week asked me for 6 together.
I know.
You know, like, no problem. I'll get you reps of the t-shirt. How's that? You know,
yeah.
Would that settle you? And stone faced, no emotion. Yeah, 6. See how he goes, sure. See how he goes. Give me a shout Wednesday. You know, like it's like. What am I going to do? Like, I don't have this power. Well, I barely have one for myself. As of right now, I've one for myself. That's it.
If someone made that type of ridiculous request, right, I wouldn't help them again. Because it happened to me during the week where a work friend of mine got on to the middle of the week and said, I really want to go to the Louth the Mayo game this weekend, but it's sold out. Well, I said, fair enough. I'll see what I can do. Put a few texts in. Eventually, kind of Thursday morning, I get offered a pair of tickets for them. But they're like, okay, they're for the Hill, but both are available and I'll sell them for cost price, no problem whatsoever. I went, great. I'll go back to my friend who was so desperate to go to the game. Went back to them, said, got 2 tickets for the Hill, and they went, could you get me something for the Hogan or the Cusack instead?
Yeah.
And I was just like, get out of town.
Yeah. I actually don't have those Hill tickets for you anymore now.
Yeah, I'm going to go myself.
Yeah. I had a fellow one time tell me his uncle had vertigo, so he couldn't, because I got him like 2 tickets or something. He's like, Jesus, you know, your uncle goes to all the games and all this stuff. Got him 2 tickets. And like the thing was, they were pretty much where the commentators and stuff would be. And I always say to lads, there's a reason the commentators.
It's not that high though either.
But it's also the best place in the field. If you were to tell someone right front row in the Hogan stand or there, a lot of lads would take the front row in the Hogan stand, not realising the best seat in the house is in the gantry, like up. Yeah. That's why all the commentators are there. But your man was like, geez, the uncle has vertigo. I don't think he can go up that high. I was like, well, to be fair, like, there's a grand screen in the big tree down below. So it's like, if he wants to go down there and watch it, that's great. But he may go up to the upper Hogan or swivel on it.
Well, you're right, though. But interesting, like, Murph, how did you manage to say when you were playing the whole ticket debacle on early week?
I used to say to lads, I'd say to lads, there's no promises. I'll try and get them. If I do get them, I'll text you on, should know by like Wednesday. And if you don't collect them by Friday, they're gone. Because lads will go, geez, actually, I tell you, I'm bringing the cat for a haircut there on Friday. But if you're around Saturday, Saturday, if you called out, and I said, no, if you call And actually, one of the years I gave them to my mother and felt unfair because, because the lads would be messing around. So I said to lads, look, by Friday, I said, I'm not dealing with tickets after that. Made no apologies about it because if you do have the capacity to get a few as a player, the last thing you want to be doing is actually looking after lads. Because like you're there trying to think about a match and you're thinking about this and that. And lads completely forget. Like lads aren't thinking about the All-Ireland final. Like this week now, the families start thinking about it. The Galway and Limerick lads are thinking about it straight away afterwards, and the tickets are the biggest hindrance for any player. So if anybody that's there now dealing with a player and you're getting tickets off them, whatever about dealing with a county board lad, whatever about you're dealing with a player, get your tickets as soon as you can off them because you're nearly a problem to the players. Like that's not to be bad. It's not to sound like I didn't enjoy that I was able to help people and get tickets, but they're burning the back pocket of the lads going around going, geez, just get rid of these now and just let me sail into the final. That makes sense. Like,
yeah, I used to nominate my mother. I'd say, if you want tickets, ma'am, you take care of the tickets. I don't want to hear a bit about it.
Yeah.
We used to get 10 complimentary and the option to purchase 10. But that would never ever satisfy the request, the number of requests, because your clubs might get 60 or 70. I don't know what the clubs get, to be fair. Yeah. There's so many clubs in Galway, like you wouldn't get 200. So then the whole parish is after you, and relations are after you. And I just got pissed off after the first year. That is, you get tickets for lads, right? And I remember this, the very first final, the Euro 12, right? Get tickets for a guy, and next thing they wouldn't pay you. Go
away.
So hand over the tickets. Yeah, I'll catch you next week. And then the week passes, right? And the following week passes, and you're going, I'll fucking burn your dog if you don't pay me. Like, give me money for tickets. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
burn your dog.
Like, sorry, I didn't mean that way. Like,
don't worry, no animals were harmed before someone comes after us.
It's a figure of speech. I've never heard that as a figure of speech.
But up these sides it is, yeah.
Well, I tell you what, actually, this genuinely happened. So obviously Dad was county board chairman from like 86 to 89. And after that would have been involved in the county board. And, lads will ring any county board member to try and get tickets in the run to matches. And in fairness to Dad, he'd try his best for lads. But like boys would drive onto the house, before mobile phone stuff, boys mightn't ring the landline, but they drive on, knock at the door, say any chance of tickets, all this. They'll say, look, I'll see what I can do for you. Dad died in 2004. Kilkenny weren't in All-Ireland until 2006. Landline rang. Fella rang the landline one of the days looking for Dad to try and get tickets off him. Honest to God. He was like, oh, jeez, Tommy. Yeah, no, just ringing there, making it off that he was catching up with Dad. And I was like, yeah, what are you looking for? Just seeing is there no ticket? Well, he said, Tommy won't be able to get them for you now, that. But boys hadn't a clue. 2 years after he passed away, there was lads ringing looking for tickets. Yeah.
That's just brazen, in fairness.
No, we laughed at it because we were like, sure, how does a fella roll back on that? Like, how does a fella go, how do you get yourself out of that situation? But, genuinely, yeah, that was mental.
Obviously, like, when you boys were playing in All-Ireland finals, there was a longer lead-in back then from the semi-finals to now. Like, I was listening to Colin Mannion's Skehill during the week, and he was saying, like, in a weird way, it possibly helps that it's so quick. So it's like, we were doing the media day on the Monday, which was literally, 48 hours after they come off the pitch in the semi-final. Get it done, have all that kind of crack done. He was saying he was hoping to have the tickets all sorted by the end of last week. That's actually like a ridiculously quick turnaround, because I assume you probably do your debrief, your warm downs, whatever would have happened after the semi-final, and then straight away it's almost like 1 week to get ready for the final, and boom, there it is.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about a condensed season or compressed season, I think the only people who doesn't lend itself in a positive manner is the people who are injured. But to everybody else, it's fantastic because. We often talk about momentum here and the fact that if you have momentum, you want to keep it moving and not for the time to drift too far. So they would have had Limerick and Galway would have had, I believe, 4 weeks from their respective provincial finals. Wouldn't that be right?
Yeah.
So they've had their break and now they're getting 2 weeks from semi to final. And I think it's a perfect period because you're kind of debriefing, as you said, Will, after the semi-finals. You're looking at your own analysis from that perspective, that game, and see what can you correct. You're recuperating the bodies, obviously. And the public as a whole, the Galway people, Limerick people as a whole, are celebrating semi-final victory, and then before you know it, boom, you're in All-Ireland final week, and it's come around, and it's just a continuation of same. So I think it's perfect timing, if you ask me, in the sense that when we were at it more for like a week to wait, I think it was 4 weeks. 4 weeks,
yeah,
4 and 4, let's say, between your qualifying, semi-final, final,
Yeah,
and it just at the time it was a lot. Like it was a lot, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and even for a player, I can imagine, not that I remember too vividly now, but I just do remember slightly that it was fatiguing because. Other people's professions, emotionally, Murph, like it's I think your profession and what you're doing from your day to day has a bit to do with it as well. So I'm not pointing the finger at the teachers, but they're not going to school at this moment in time. Whereas if you're out in the working world, let's say like a normal 9 to 5, not on summer, whatever way I say that, it's going to offend someone, right? But like, what I'm trying to say.
Seamus Flanagan said something similar on Off the Wall Breakfast a few weeks ago. He kind of went, yeah, I was considering what I was going to do after college, and a lot of lads were going teaching because they knew it would fit in well with Inter-County. And it was almost like some lads online went, Seamus Flanagan attacks teachers like as doctors. And you're going, it's not what he's saying. You can say, by the way, I know I have loads of friends of mine who played and who were teachers, and they will openly admit that when they were doing the CEO form, even at that point, when they were maybe minors or under 21s as it was back then, genuinely the consideration was coming into it going, well, if I get a nice teaching job reasonably close to home, it'll work really well at my Inter-County.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's reality.
And take present moment now with there's probably teachers, let's say, who are playing on Sunday that are very fluid with their time in terms of the structure. They don't have a very structured day, and they can go and speak to whoever they want. So they can be very specific about who they speak to. Whereas other people in other professions, they might have to be in this place at 8 o'clock Monday morning and go different places. And it can be tricky talking to people who aren't in your close circle, who are you would deem as strangers, and trying to give them time. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I would find when you're giving people your time, not to be disrespectful, and you're having the same conversation 100 times over the course of 7 days, it gets really, really fatiguing. Like, it really tires you out. And you just say, will this match ever come on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually help to alleviate any sense of nervousness.
Yeah.
Like I find your nervousness level, I don't with June now, but the week of the game, your nervousness level would peak, let's say, at Thursday, Friday. It would peak at absolute shitting break at this point. Then it was started to kind of digress a bit, like say on Saturday and Sunday, it's gone. You know what I mean? But if you're talking to people and they're consistently asking you about the game and how's this lad and how's this injury, like, will you just go away from me, please? I want to get through the week. And get to Sunday. That's it.
But it's like the only way I'd say to people what it's like is that in terms of fatigue and in terms of having a conversation, it's like, imagine now tomorrow morning as soon as you wake up that for the next 2 weeks, anybody when you come in contact, or 90% of people when you come in contact with you, are going to ask you about Kerry in Dublin. Just say, what do you think of Kerry in Dublin? And you go down, you get your coffee in a shop, and someone goes, well, what do you think of Kerry in Dublin? But for 2 weeks, it's like, it was a great match, and geez, were they goals, weren't they goals? And you have to have the same conversation, because people mightn't understand why wouldn't you want to talk about an All-Ireland final, but when it's the only thing you're talking about, and it's also something that you're trying to take your mind off a little bit, finding that balance can be very tough. And you know what? A lot of people also realize that, because a lot of people say, listen, I'm not going to melt your head there now. I'm not going, that sort of way. So there is a lot of people who would have good emotional intelligence, I would say.
But for the amount of people that do, there's the equal amount that don't.
Oh yeah,
I would say far more.
What's your? I know that my least favorite question people ask me, if back then, what was it, Murph? Have a guess what it is. So a week of the game, they come over to you and
will you do it?
Will you do it? Exactly. Nail on the head, my friend. Are you going to do it? Will you do it? And then you play around with it and you think, no, we're fucked. And then pure shock in their face. Like,
how many times do you look at it and go, we're going to do it?
We're going to do it.
I can't answer that question with any degree of confidence. I don't know.
But sure, you can't turn around, like, even if you're going in as savage underdogs into a match, you're never going to go, "Jeez, we'll work it out for us now." I don't know. You're always going to turn and say, "No, jeez, we'll put it up to them boys." Like,
I've only ever said that phrase once, and it was in a club campaign, and we didn't do it.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not.
You would run some pressure if you turn around to some lad and you go, do you know what? Actually, this Kilkenny team are generational. They're just far too good. Even if we get to our top level, we aren't touching them at the weekend. But it's been a good year to get to the final, so hopefully you enjoy the weekend.
Yeah.
A day out.
There was another phrase there. So that was the one before the match. Is like, will you do it Sunday? Will you do it? But there was one of our lads used to say, "You'd be going for pints, let's say, in the day session after a match, and you're after winning, obviously." But everyone would say, "Well done yesterday." That was the one that people would always say. So your man, literally, once he got a pint into him on the day, let's say you're after playing All-Ireland semi-final or after playing Leinster final or whatever it was, and he'd just be walking around the pub, he'd be playing pool, there'd be music in the jukebox, and anytime a new lad would walk in, he's part of the team, like, he'd be like, "Well done yesterday. Well done yesterday." Well, that was just the one, because everybody be saying it. So I'd say if you wrote a book on those phrases, I'd say they're just they go across counties.
But will you do it? It has to be up there with the most
will you do it?
Type of phrase. Yeah.
Do you know what though? Even going back to what you were saying about the 2 weeks, I actually think the 3 weeks I think would be a nicer one, because I look at the run into the final as being like you're kind of basking in it. Like, I just think it's like the run into Christmas. Nearly the build up is nearly half the crack, where like you're excited about it and you're looking forward to it and there's presents to be unwrapped. And then the day obviously comes and it's brilliant. But half of the joy, I think, is the running. But I agree with you, Skehill, like 4 weeks was a long time, because it also, on the flip side, a lot can happen in those 4 weeks and players can pick up injuries. Like you were mentioning the boys there that it's very hard in 2 weeks to get them back. But in 4 weeks, you're going to have 2 weeks of hard training at least, maybe 2.5 weeks of hard training. And plenty of lads can actually pick up knocks in that time. So I think from the point of view of if someone was to say to you, what would be the sweetest spot for an All-Ireland final? I would nearly say 3 because the following week, bit of recovery, how are the bodies, bit of analysis. You maybe have a 10-day block then where you can go hard and then you wind it back down to the final. And there's not a rush to get lads tickets. There's not a rush to get lads, suited and booted. And these are all important things as well. And there's not, all that isn't a rush. At the moment, I think it feels like a rush, particularly for county boards. Like if you talk to any county board now, I'd say, Limerick or Galway, okay, and albeit Limerick have a bit more experience over the last few years, but like for the Galway County Board turn around and trying to book hotels, book this, book that, tickets, suits, what are we doing here, sponsorships, we have to do supporters club nights, all these things. 14 days is very tight,
No, it is. It's a massive minister effort, particularly because you will get it in the neck if for any reason you decide to put any of these plans in place before you win the semi-final. Yeah. And then if you were to, say whatever goes wrong in a semi-final, then people go, you look too far ahead of yourself. Yeah. And there'd be any reason why. But the reality is you're probably just trying to put these things in place so you're not chasing the week before a game.
I know where the opposition are staying now was booked prior to the semi-finals and not by the opposition. Oof. So I leave it to your imagination.
Oh, right.
I won't say it because I'll be shut down.
So what nice hotel were Cork due to stay in then? What?
I didn't say a word. Burlington. I didn't say a word.
So hold on. Did Galway get the Burlington or did Limerick get it?
No, the Galway aren't in the Burlington. Galway are in
the Galway.
The Rashkins Hotel. What's the Rashkins Hotel called? Radisson.
Oh, right, okay.
The Radisson, yeah. Do you know what's his first name? Anyways, a prominent builder in Galway owns a hotel in Dublin. I can't think of the fucking name.
Is it JJ Rashkin?
Pádraig Rashkin of JJ Rashkins. Come on.
Yeah, okay.
I believe he's a hotel up there, and it's Radisson. So look after your own, Will. Look after your own.
But I did kind of wonder because Limerick back in 23, and again, shoot me any of the listeners in the comments or wherever.
They go home, don't they?
They went home the last time. Yeah, they got the train back, and I know they got the train back kind of COVID years as well.
Yeah, Woodlands was it?
I
thought it was the one.
Did they go to Adare Manor one year? I think so.
I believe they went to Adare Manor one year, and I believe they went to another hotel in Adare also.
Yeah, Woodlands. The Woodlands.
Was it Woodlands? I think. Yeah.
Is that's Adare? Is it?
Yeah, Conor Fitzgerald's place.
Yeah.
My memory,
good Galway woman,
Galway woman keeping it all together there. My memory of it was, like in the Sunday game. So as opposed to them going to, over to Marty's in the hotel, I remember it was like Marty's now in Limerick Station, and here's Keane Lynch coming off the train. It was kind of very unusual. And then they went to the hospital in Limerick as opposed to going to the Children's Hospital in Dublin and all that type of stuff.
It's a nice touch, though. In fairness, I didn't
think it was a bad idea.
I'm all for that.
Put the pinch on RTE to get down the road.
Just a bit. Marty chasing the train on the way home as opposed to
in the hired vehicle.
RTE like a coil spring. We have to go to the Burlington or we have to go to Limerick Junction. We're not sure. But
have the tank full.
Yeah, the car ticking over.
All benefit in kind, all declared, and all that. I at least now I know they're going to the Burlington. That's good because I was trying to arrange what we do. Because see, when you're working in the media, right, you have to basically play both sides on this, which is the Monday morning for off the ball breakfast. I need to make sure I've got a reporter either in the Galway hotel or in the Limerick hotel, and we only get to work that out at around about 5:10 on a Sunday evening. And then you're chasing PROs and trying to find what's going on because you want to get those interviews and all that type of stuff. If Limerick are staying in Dublin, that's all good news. Hopefully they do stay in the Burlington if they're up there beforehand. So I think did Galway travel up on the day for the Cork game? Or did they stay up before?
No, they did. Yeah, travel the day.
Yeah.
In fairness, Will, you have to Galway is a very straight shot. Has to be. Yeah. To Dublin, especially when you get the escort from the.
What are you? An hour and 42 hours? What are you?
It depends what part of Galway you are. I don't know if we talked about this in the podcast previously.
Well, let's say where do they meet now to get the bus and go?
So generally they'd meet at the Plaza where you got the cup of coffee one day.
In Kilkenny.
The Kilkenny Plaza, yeah. They could meet.
Get the bus from there.
There's a truck stop there, Murph. Where you can park plenty of cars. So it's just a grand meeting point central, and you're right on the motorway. Yeah. And that location is actually quite central for a lot of people, a lot of the clubs.
It's in the Hurling land, isn't it? Yeah,
makes sense.
It is, yeah. If you were you said, how long would it be? From that location, I'd imagine you'd be 2 hours dot to dot from there to Croke Park.
That's all right, yeah.
If you're coming from the west, let's say following the Galway football team or the hurlers, mind you, sorry, you're only halfway up on the slow.
Yeah.
And that like Galway's a huge county in terms of
imagine those
geography.
To imagine if there's any boys, I don't know which lads are kind of out west direction, but you imagine even if it was football, you'd be bringing lads in to stay in Galway the night before if they wanted, because
but they would though, Murph. Like, sorry to correct you, but I presume do a lot of lads, let's say in Kilkenny, who live in clubs like outside the city, live in Kilkenny also. Would that be the case? Because I got a Galway boys now would live in Galway, even if they're Kinvara. Or
fair amount,
in Galway.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
If you're based in Kilkenny, most lads would be living inside the city. Bar the likes of Owen Murphy and Ger Elwer, they would have been Glenmore, and Glenmore is just about Waterford, so you're talking 40 minutes, I'd say.
Is that south east?
Yeah. Right. So other than that, most lads would have been in Kilkenny. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Is that right? Shh, I'm on.
Hold on, predictions could be on the way. Skehill, find out who's winning the All Ireland final.
Well, this one I don't think you tell us much, lads.
I might do. Go on.
This is Robin. Did you meet Robin before?
Hello, Robin.
Oh, we met Robin. Yeah,
we did before a pod.
Hello, Robin. Say hello. You want to say hi?
No.
Robin's
far too shy for this.
Come on, you love saying "Come on, Galway." Okay, all right.
not in a podcast.
Perform. Sorry, she bet in the door.
Like, I presume, Murphy, you probably for Kilkenny, given the proximity to Dublin and everything, you probably travelled up on game day, did you?
Oh yeah, completely.
Your own bed the night before.
It was great. There was never stayed anywhere bar after the All Ireland final, obviously on the night. But that changed now for the Galway matches now, and then the Antrim matches that'll be up in Corrigan Park. Lads stayed the night before because we spoke about it previously. There was just a few shit shows along the way where,
Murph, there's no way you guys can account for Galway traffic on the day of the game.
No, I spoke about it before. I think it was 2017 or 18. The time
even from a dietary perspective, getting your meal time right, you couldn't, Murph.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. It was one of the worst feelings playing Yee one day up in Salt Hill in the summer. It was horrendous. It was roasting hot. We misjudged the bus. It was actually the last time Kilkenny didn't stay in Galway. It was brutal. So that's the only thing. It's actually going up Galway or Antrim. That's the only two thorny ones, really.
Yeah. Would you have travelled up on the day as well, Skehill, or how did you do it?
Always, always travelled up. There was never a case where we were up the night before. And I'm happy it's that way too, because at the time, I'd be very much of a home bird. I like my own bed. I like my own routine in the morning. You know what I mean? Whether it be that a walk or something just peace and quiet, or the decibel level, keep it low, or your own space. I don't like the thoughts of being pulled out, unless it's absolutely necessary, mind you now.
Yeah.
But from our perspective, it's not. I maybe in the likes of Cork and others might have to. Because it's probably a bit of a trick, or Waterford with others, I don't know. But from our perspective, it's a hard no.
Well, if you're let's say Cork, for example, if you're Castlehaven, Baltimore direction, Union Hall, so they're 2 hours. I think someone said to me before, if you were driving Castlehaven to Dublin, you're halfway when you're at Mitchelstown. So you're still in Cork,
it's still in your own county. Yeah, it's
still in your own county. Yeah. So I don't know.
I still think ideal preparation as you do, because when you were talking about the boys asking you all the questions and everything, I was just thinking of Johnny Pilkington on the two Johnnies a couple of weeks ago, where he talked about his preparation for the 1994 final, which was got up, had the fry at home, walked down to the newsagents to get his cigarettes before he went to Dublin to get the bus. He basically humoured the lad in the newsagents who was asking him questions about what was going on. I was like, who are you picking up today? Yeah, Kieran Carey's fast. Yeah, I might pick him up. Yeah, Hurling to be fairly physical. Sure, yeah, I might mark him. Give me the cigarettes. Got out, got on the bus, had a sleep on the bus on the way up, got to the hotel in Lucan, had soup and sandwiches in Lucan, poked around in the car park, and then went out and played.
Yeah,
there was no messing about. There was no foam rollers. There was no any of that. It was just
but like there's a huge element to that whereby you can guarantee with Johnny Pilkington, and maybe you'd have to ask his opinion. I doubt any day got to Johnny Pilkington, because you'll often hear players talking about the day getting to them and the pressure of the day and the enormity of the day. Whereas if that's what he does of a normal day and he's comfortable doing that on a final, well then it makes the All Ireland final day feel normal, or semi final, or Leinster final, whatever you want to call it. But like, if your All Ireland, if your routine is drastically different from what your normal life would be, well, then I think you're telling the body, oh, we're doing something alien here today. We're doing something that's not normal. Like I remember Saturday nights, if we're playing, before All Ireland finals on a Saturday, I just go out and go for a walk, turn on the headphones, go for a walk by the river, because you're just trying to clear the head, burn a bit of time, do all this. Whereas like, if it was something completely drastically different that made you nervous and made you anxious. So like if for Johnny Pilkington it was a case of going out, getting the fags, shooting the breeze with a lad in the shop, going out, and no foam rolling, no stretching. But once he hit the pitch, he was flying it. Well, off you go, Johnny. Have at it, like, you know. Didn't Jack O'Shea used to say they stayed in Portmarnock and he'd have 2 or 3 pints the night before a match, and on the day he'd go out and pitch and putt. He played a bit of pitch and putt the morning of the final. That was on a Kerry programme good few years ago.
Yeah,
for footballer of the years. Do you know what I mean?
Just different times. I remember the Mayo football, some of that as well. I think they stayed in Maynooth or somewhere, and it was like they'd have a few settlers the night before because that was just kind of the done thing at the time.
I love that phrase.
Look, again, it's just different times now. And I suppose when it comes to this weekend, before we get into the games themselves, Gal, Limerick have been there and done this and done that. And like basically that group know everything about this. I mentioned the start, 6 finals in 9 years. Galway, I would think you probably lean on the experience of the fact that Micheál has managed in finals before.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Manions, maybe lads like that who were around in 2017, 2018, Dahi Burke, those type of guys. I presume they'll just kind of bridging the gap for the young lads who haven't played an All-Ireland final before. And look, just maybe for the likes of Rabbit and Island and Burke and these type of lads, they probably don't get caught up in the hype of it anyway.
Potentially, like we were talking about the beautiful ignorance of some young players who don't even think about that as being an issue. It's, I suppose, the more you progress in your career and you start checking on a few years, that's when that comes into your head and probably gathers at times a more prominent position in your head during the week. Whereas I can't imagine those guys give a hoot about suits or tickets or whatever. Plenty of people around them, and I like the fact that the management team have been in finals before, won a final. Part of the management team have also played in finals. Do you know what I mean? So if you're looking for an area to cover or a box to tick, I feel like there's confidence in the fact that there's plenty of people around that circle to take care of the players as well as the players themselves, as we know, some of which have won a title as well. So that kind of wouldn't bother me too much as much as it potentially could if the team was completely novice. If there was nobody ever part of the Ireland Victories team or even part of a final. But in the same breath, I look at Limerick in 18 and say none of those guys were part of the final. Of any shape and scene, either from management perspective or in playing perspective, and they started what we see now was the beginning of a beautiful run. So like that kind of stuff doesn't worry me. And I think the focus of this week and last week is centered on the games, like the semi-final and the final, from a tactical perspective, preparation perspective. That's where 99.99% of the focus is, guarantee it. Now they'll address it. I said last week that the likes of me, I would have all the the admin addressed very, very sharply, like by Tuesday, and by all accounts, it was. So it was put out of the way, and because the more you talk about that, the more you bring it into a theoretical important position. When it's not. Who gives a shit about a Supermurf? Who gives a shit about a banquet? Nobody cares what's on the dinner plate. 10 o'clock at night after the final, unless you win. So that's, from my perspective, is get other stuff that's not important, that's needless in terms of your preparation, get it out of the way early, and focus on the opposition because they need a lot of focusing. I'm saying a lot of attention needs to be applied to them and what way you're going to set up against them on both sides of the ball. So, from my perspective, happy with who we have in charge.
Yeah, okay. Right. Let's get into it then. So, for me, Murph, there's an interesting kind of symmetry to all this. So, back in 2018, as Skehill has already said, Galway were the season team. They had just come off the back of winning All-Ireland. They go to back-to-back finals. A lot of those lads would have played in a lot of major finals the years before. Limerick were kind of bringing through that group of, as they turn out to be, brilliant young players that would explode on and win everything before them in the years to come. But Limerick were the kind of new coming force at that stage. This time round, Limerick are a team who have dominated really over the last 9-10 years, and here they are now going into a final against a Galway team who've been replenished by these young players. And I mentioned Aaron Island was saying down at the launch just a few weeks ago of the All-Ireland Championship, was it 6 weeks ago now at this stage, he was saying, the only one good thing is we went to Leinster final this time and we won. We got over the line in a big game, which hasn't really been happening. And for loads of the young players, this is all we know now at this stage. So is there an element of almost like it's a role reversal now? This is like a younger Galway team coming up against the seasoned Limerick team as opposed to what it was in 18.
It's a great point. It's exactly what it is. When I think back to that final in 2018, and who were the marquee players where would you say there was pressure on? You think of Joe Canning straight away. You're thinking, right, Joe, and then on this one you're thinking, who are the marquee players? Of course, you're thinking the Galway lads, but you're thinking Cian Lynch and Gearóid Hegarty and these boys, and obviously the fact that where are the All-Ireland medals in terms of there's All-Ireland medals in Galway in the Galway dressing room this weekend. But there's obviously a lot more in the Limerick one. So you're saying from an experience point of view, you're saying, well, these lads have been there over the last few years, the vast bulk of them. I'm trying to think of lads. There's nobody starting who hasn't got an All-Ireland medal. I'm correct in saying that. I don't think there's any newcomers, fully newcomers like that. Does Aidan O'Connor not have a medal?
I don't think he has. But I know Adam English has and Shane O'Brien has, but I don't think Aidan O'Connor has.
Jeez, fair play. That's a great call. I thought he did. Are you checking that, Will?
I'll check it now, yeah. It's interesting. He's the only one I can think of potentially because certainly like Colin Neal, Adam English, Shane O'Brien was around in 2023. So, yeah. I'll check it out. Go on, you go.
Regardless, either way, anyway, absolutely, it is a role reversal on the broad scale of things. And I think that's something that I think Limerick have more than enough to think about that this Galway team are going to pose for them. But it's certainly an added one. And it's an interesting one. Like, as a point to note, if John Kiley or Paul Canuck were saying to them, say, listen, lads, we're obviously coming into this as Munster champions. We're coming into this in a great bill of health. We're obviously very strong. But remember where Galway came into this when a lot of our lads weren't household names back in 2018. However, it all came down to on the day, because what you're trying to do for a lot of players is just tune them into on the day. Like, you go back to any year and you're in the league or you're in the round robin phase and there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of, well, if this team beats this team and this team beats that and we go here or we'll come second, there's a lot of noise. This is a straight shootout. It's one match and it's a cliche to say anything can happen. But we saw in the semi-finals that nothing went to script in the semi-finals. The way Galway played against Cork, no one had that penned down that they would be so dominant. Like, if you were to say Galway were going to win, you'd say, geez, they're going to win by maybe 2 or 3 points, not 11 points, and not blowing them out of the water. If you were to say that Limerick and Clare were going to be that Clare were going to take off very early on, and for the vast amount of the game, they'll be leading by 6 points, but then Limerick will claw back. You'll say, Jesus, that sounds a little bit off the script. So when it comes to the All-Ireland final, something very similar can happen there as well. You can break it down in All-Ireland final tactically as well. You can break it down to death. But a huge part, I feel, as well with an All-Ireland final is like the moment where great players rise to the occasion of an All-Ireland final. Because we spoke just a couple of minutes ago about the psychology of coming into a match, and there's lots of things there that can really influence a player's ability to perform on the day. But when I look at so many of the players on both sides for this weekend, I'm looking at them going, geez, there's lots of tried and tested players there. And even when I look at the lads who, let's say, aren't tried and tested, Jason Rabbit, Aaron Nyland, these guys, and going, Jesus, I don't doubt them lads for a second. So it's one of the hardest games to analyse, and particularly when you have two really evenly matched teams. I really think that. And I think one of the things that feeds into it for me is Limerick's first half performance. Like, if Limerick went out and blew Clare out of the grounds on the semi-final, you're kind of sitting here going, okay, Galway were good, but by God, this is a juggernaut of a Limerick team. And being selfish as a neutral, I'm nearly delighted that that's the case we're coming into. Like, we really have a game on our hands here. And I fail to see how, I know you started this question as it being a role reversal, but it is a role reversal in lots of ways, Will. But I just feel that both teams are, in many ways, really well evenly matched coming into it. If I had to say it, I'd say Galway had the better form. Their semi-final performance was a lot more convincing than Limerick. But Limerick have earned the right at this stage where you say, doubt Limerick at your peril in terms of what they can bring. I'm thinking back to the Tipperary match in the league where they went down to Semple Stadium and out of nowhere performed incredibly well on a rainy, wet night down there. And like, Aidan O'Connor came of age that night, as far as I'm concerned. Sure. And then you think about the Clare match in Ennis. I thought that day they didn't put a foot wrong. And I think both performances kind of came, it was a marked increase in their performances on previous performances. Like, they'd been good and then they'd maybe flatter to deceive and then suddenly they'd go really good. There's so many lads here that have experienced in All-Ireland finals that, you're expecting a mighty Limerick performance. And I look at the other side then, I just think that from the performance of the Galway boys in their match, I just think that they're in a really good place to come in and perform. They're not coming in under pressure. They're coming in with the blend of youth and experience. And I think also the fact that Micheál Donoghue has been a winning All-Ireland manager is good as well. Like, if you're a young player there going, looking up at the manager and looking up at Daithí Burke and lads who've won All-Irelands, Cathal Mannion, these lads, Conor Whelan, you're going, these lads have all done it. So the answers are in this dressing room,
Yep. I checked out Aidan O'Connor, right? So he has a medal from 2023, but he wasn't used as a sub in the final. But do you know what's actually quite telling? I was looking at the team from 2023, and it's amazing, like, how settled Limerick are. So bear in mind that Sean Finn was injured that season. Did he do his hamstring, I think, at the end of the Munster Championship? So Mike Casey played cornerback in the final. Nicky Quaid's in goal. You've got Dan Morrissey, so it's going to be Dan or Mike who'll be a 3 for the final. Barry Nash, Dermot Burns, Will O'Donoghue, because remember Hannon was injured that season as well. Kyle Hayes, Darragh O'Donovan, Keane Lynch, Garrod Hegarty, David Reedy, Tom Morrissey, Aaron Gillan, Seamus Flanagan, Peter Casey, and Carl O'Neill came on for Flanagan during the game as well. So again, it just goes to show Adam English has obviously come of age in that time. Shane O'Brien has found his way into the team, and now the babyface assassin, as Limerick fans call him, Aidan O'Connor, is now an undisputed starter in that half-forward line. But like Morrissey, Reedy, Casey, they're all going to be in and around a chance of starting this coming weekend, and these young lads have come into it. So it's still a very, very settled and so much experience throughout that team. It's absolutely insane when you think about it. Like, they've almost integrated them, Skehill, so kind of seamlessly, if I'm going to say it, over the last 2.5 years, where we were getting used to seeing a bit of Colin O'Neill, and it was a bit of Adam English. There was no real kind of, they have to get 3 of them in at the one time. All of them have kind of come in and just got game time slowly but surely in this team.
Yes.
And they're now key players, obviously.
I always think that it's not that it's easier, but it's a straighter line to integrate players into a very successful team than it is to a team that's struggling, I think. I think players have nearly the allowance to have their own little blips when they're trying to come into a team at 19, 20 years of age, that they don't need to be the top performers right out the gate because it's surrounded by such good players. I think if they come into a team that's semi-struggling or struggling, there's ferocious pressure on them lads to carry the whole fight for their team. So when you see like O'Neill got opportunities, and I know he was fantastic straight out the gate, but you didn't see him every day of the week now. You didn't see him every match. Like you saw him, at some points there'd be cameos where he'd come on for 60 minutes. We remember back in 22, 23, he could shoot 2 or 3 points. And the question is, how is he not starting? Well, we know why he wasn't starting the whole time, because he was being, kept out by, generational players, as we say. So the fact that those guys haven't been, household names from the day they got on the pitch, a bit like Aidan O'Connor, as you just said, Will, I think is only a positive for Limerick, as far as I'm concerned. Like I honestly don't believe that if the likes of Nyland and Rabbit were in Limerick, I honestly, hand in heart, I don't believe they'd be in such a prominent position as they are with Galway, because Galway had to do it. Will they had to do it? I did
enjoy during the week, so you can expand on this scale. I think it was James O'Connor who said it during the week, where he said, basically this Galway team have been like an aeroplane that's been fixed in mid-flight. They couldn't stop, they couldn't reset. They had to kind of work this out while they were on the move. And there's a certain element of truth in that. Like Micheál over the last year and a half has just been kind of working out as he went along.
I think Micheál, he did the same thing when he started with us back in, the winter of 15, whereby he kept the same panel, the same 35 panel, whatever. I don't actually believe he added anyone, but he kept the same panel for the following season, and then he knew what he had then for a tilted Ireland. So last year, I thought when he took over, I thought he'd make some. To be honest, I thought he'd make wholesale changes. But I'll be fully honest, I thought he'd do a bit of a clear out. He'd create, a certain age profile down the way, etc.
Like, am I right in saying about 11 years ago, he pretty much came in and went, I want this panel to come kind of 25 and younger? That was what he was looking at. Was it a hard and fast rule?
It was actually, would you believe that was Anthony Cunningham when he took over from John McIntyre back in, again, the winter of, what that has been, the winter of 11?
2011.
The year before we played yourself, Murph, like he went in and he just, like, he cut. And I remember asking the management team at the time to say, why did you do such a cull? Because I think there was like 17 lads or 16 lads culled off the panel. And like, if you weren't, if you were over the age of 25, you know what I mean, and you weren't guaranteed a place in the starting team, you were gone. Which I thought was, whoa, that's ruthless enough. But then you see what happens in the following year. You get to a Leinster final against yourselves, Murphs, and contest in Ireland after a long absence. Like, so you can't begrudge the management's decision. You can't say that was right or wrong. You can't say it was wrong because it was proven right. And that the influx of players that came in that year was based off the 21 Ireland winning team, which carried Conor Cooney and David Burke and others, plenty others, Niall Dunn, who God rest him, and others. There was loads of lads that came in off that team, and they became the focus of the Galway squad for the next, I suppose, well, still are some of them for the next decade, to be fair. So you could see where that was coming from. I didn't think the same thing was going to happen, last year. I didn't think there'd be such a major influx of young guys, because I thought they'd need time, seeing as they're still in school. And, bigger Egypt me, because here they are now occupying 2 of the full forward line, and occupying it in a very, very, fucking fruitful manner. But the point back to your question is, I honestly, and maybe you can disagree with me here, is if they're in Limerick at this moment of time, or I don't believe they're on the Limerick squad, just about in 26, but I don't think they're on the team, taking a position away from a Peter Casey or a Shane. I don't think so. Yeah. I think they're going to have to serve an apprenticeship of sorts. A bit like, I was cocksure now, to be honest, Aidan O'Connor had no medal, Will. Little did I know that he's been on the panel for 4 years, but it looks like the sounds of this is his 5th season. So, so like, he's had to wait too. Last year was his first time to come on board a full forward, I remember, in the Munster Championship. And he caught me off guard, didn't know who the kid was until I saw him in a club game. And I go, yeah, you're very good. You're very good. So, I suppose that's a long-winded answer to your question, but you get what I'm trying to say. I think if you're a successful team, you can be afforded opportunities to kind of pace the integration of young players. What do you reckon, Mark? Same thing?
I completely get you. Like you're giving two different messages to lads. Like if you're a team, I think that's not starved, but you have holes in positions and you need lads to come in and fill them. Your message to them is like, we need you to perform, whether you're saying that or not. You're like, we need you to come good as quickly as possible. Whereas if you're 19 or 20 years of age and you get a chance with the Limerick team, you're basically told, if you perform, you'll have a jersey. If you don't, Cian Lynch has one, Aaron Gillan has one, and that's a much more tangible motivation for lads. Like no one's if you feel under pressure nearly as a 19 or 20-year-old, if you enter a team that is on a rebuild, but they want that rebuild to happen very quickly, and they're like, you need to perform now. Whereas I just find it leads to much clearer thoughts when you know that there's competition for places, and it's more digestible that way. Like if you have competition and you're like, well, if I hurl well, I play, and if I don't hurl well, I won't play. And I'd agree with you. It's not to be hard on Ireland or Rabbit, but the standard will be so high in the six forwards and the subs that are there to come on for Limerick at the moment that I don't think they'd be playing yet if they were in Limerick. But the flip side of that to say is that they have an opportunity in Galway when Galway weren't at the top table to flourish now and in their own time become players. They just happen to have come, like particularly Jason Rabbit, they just happen to come good really early and at a really good time, particularly for Galway people. So I agree with you. Yeah, it's two different completely approaches there, and it is much easier to transition players into a team that's functioning.
All right, let's get into some of the selection calls that are going to happen here. So Galway were saying they're hopeful that Rory Burke is going to be fit. Dai Burke looked like Skehill. He was out there on one leg for the vast majority of the game against Cork. This is where 2 weeks is a really quick turnaround. So first of all, Dai Burke, right? Given that he's probably the best man marker you have in that back line, is Micheál going to pick him if he's not 100% fit?
Dai Burke is an enigma. I'll say that very, very plain face, clear and concise as possible. He's an enigma. He's just a different human being. So the answer to your question is yes, absolutely. Okay. If he's 10% fit, he plays. He's different. Will I find people ask me about him from time to time, particularly this year as well. I find it very hard to actually, vocalize his psyche. It's very hard to understand it. Like, he's just a bear. You know what I mean? In terms of pain threshold, it's off the Richter scale. He'd remind you of a bull rider. That he's able to take that much pain. And he's just different. He can get himself into a situation, into a mindset that any kind of injury or niggle that he'd have wouldn't bother him. It would bother others. Will. Like if someone was carrying an injury, they'd be thinking themselves, I'm not 100% fit here. I'm under pressure. Not that high. So to answer your question, clear and concise, yes, he starts, even if he's fucking 60%. It doesn't matter. He'll get through it. And he'll be fine. Like, he has to be fine. I know people will give him a hard time at the half time, but yes, okay, we got the matchup wrong in the first half, but we got it right in the second half. You know what I mean? We made a one positional switch between two players and everything became hunky-dory after that. That was fine. We got it wrong in the first half, fixed in the second half. That's what Murph was on about last week about the importance of half time. Thankfully, half time came at the right time, made a couple of minor adjustments, very calm dressing, out you go, finish the job, and they did it, with bells and whistles. So I'm not overly concerned about him.
Does he hurl at 3 next Sunday?
I think so, yeah. I think he hurls it in a fluid full back line because the way Limerick play?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can see Trayers picking up Shane O'Brien, to be honest. But the trouble is, I think, does Dahi go to 3 or does he go to 6? You asked me, does he go to 3? I think he'd go to 3, but there's the Limerick forwards, they pose so many questions to a defensive unit. You have to have pace in your cornerbacks positions for both Gillan and Casey. That's a must. So for me, thinking out loud, that's Darren Morrissey, and Josh Ryan gone. I'd be thinking Morrissey would take Gillan. I think Josh would take Casey, just surmising. Then you're saying, right, Hegarty. Sure, Hegarty's he's a man mountain, But Ronan Glennon did fantastic on the high, all the aerial ball against Cork. So you would say he's an able person. And then you go, Dahi could occupy 6. Dahi can go anywhere across the positions from 3, 5, 6, 7. I wouldn't like to see him pitch up in 2 or 4 because that's a very pace-orientated position nowadays. Not that he doesn't have it, but it's a level above, at the moment. So it's a matchups question because, as I said to you, it's a bit like if you get your matchups wrong against Limerick, there could be untold damage done to you in the first 15 minutes. If you get them right, I think Clare did a really good job, gentlemen, in both sides of the ball, from a defensive perspective and attacking perspective. Yeah. Where they had some calls for positions that I was thinking, what's he doing there? I had a great question mark for Tony Kelly. Why is he full forward? Fantastic.
I saw John Conlon middle of the field. I was like, what is going on?
What is going on here? Yeah, Niall Farrell, or Darrell Owen, back at the corner said, this is great. Perfect. The matchups were spot on. So I'm just I expect that our own management team, who I know are very astute, would have the same level of kind of detail-oriented preparation put into matchups. And then come here. The way some of the games they take a life of their own at some stages, that could very well happen too here. Matchups could go out the fucking window. They could go out the window. The only little nugget I have is that Hegarty is like, he's their focal point. Because I think the nucleus of the Limerick team shifts each year. It goes around to different lads, depending on their form. I think right now this year the nucleus of the Limerick team is with Hegarty, particularly on the puck out. So I said, and every time we've played Limerick, Fintan Burke has done a fantastic job on Hegarty. Brilliant. I'm thinking, would he ever do a bolter, like a little bolter, like a Wally Walsh-Murph, as we said before, or Shane O'Donnell? Would he ever do a bolter? I'm like, jeez, they fucking might. They just might. Yeah. You'd never know, right? And here's me talking about both sides of the mouth. Excuse me. Where I think Daithí guaranteed to play, but is there ever a chance where they put in Fintan? Fintan has been exemplary, on Hegarty. And I only met him in the shop the day after the game. He was, in fairness to the Devil, they played Cork on the Saturday. He's taken his minor team to a club challenge game. On the Sunday morning, he's a big unit, Fintan.
Oh, yeah.
Have you met him, Murph? He's a big boy.
I've seen him in person. I've never met him, but I've seen him on the field.
Big boy.
Big lad. Big lump.
Big lad. So in terms of strength and power and pace, no problem. But to bolt him, he hasn't featured much, at all in this year's championship. So to bolt him for the final, I think it would be a ferociously bold call.
It'd be a massive call.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it was a little nugget in the back of my head thinking, he's been fantastic in Hegarty, and Hegarty's the nucleus. So look, we'll see. But regardless of who starts in the Galway backs, I wish we'd 8 backs to take on that forward line. Do you know what I mean? Jesus, it's because on any given day you could pick your 3, and in most forward lines you know the 3 best forwards. In the Limerick forward line days, I don't know. I have no idea. Do you know what I mean? Peter Casey could shoot you for 1-4. Glenn has been perceived to being quiet over the last 2 days. That fucker could score 10 pints. Do you know what I mean? You just know what you're going to get with these lads. So I just think whatever we do, we have to have a real miserly approach. Touch tight, aggressive, real aggressive. You know what I mean? Body contact. You know what I'm talking about, more aggressive.
Yeah. One of the things you were saying there. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say the last thing I was aggressive and make the ref do his job. Put it that way.
Yeah. No, just when you were saying there, you were speaking of the matchups and staying with Galway, my take on Daithí Burke is, I saw Micheál Donoghue speak after the game, and he was just saying, he's such a huge leader, absolutely, and he was saying there was no chance of taking him off, and I fully respect that. I've never been in a dressing room with Daithí Burke, and he obviously has this ability just to drive through the pain barrier and just keep going. But the one thing I think you'll see from a real world point of view on Sunday is that if he is starting, that injury is all right and he can start, I don't think you'll see them. I think Limerick will try and drag him towards the full back line and try and get him running into the channels, because that's where Brian Hayes cashed into the channels, and then take him on. Because the one thing that, regardless he's driving through the pain threshold with the knee, he is suffering turning. He really looks like he's under pressure turning. And if I was looking going, well, Daithí Burke is hugely important to Galway. Where is the one place that we might catch him? It's ringing him from the 16-yard line or from the edge of the box out to the side, and your Galan, your Peter Casey, whoever, taking him on and wheeling around, because that is the one place he just seemed to be are you going to lump balls down on top of him? No, you're not. Daithí Burke will eat them up all day. But so that's the one thing I think with Daithí Burke. I think that if they are playing him, and I'm not saying that I'm doubting him at all, but I think he'll probably stay out towards more the 6th position and sit back as small if it's going to be the case. Because the other side is, which we haven't mentioned, was Trayers had a mighty match when he went back to full back. Yeah. Not even a case of Daithí or whatever. And how often have we seen before, or there's been times before where we've seen 6s and 3s being interchangeable that way. And Daithí Burke and Garrod back in Ernie actually did quite a bit of that. Galway aren't unused to this. So the idea that I think Trayers now has maybe put the hand up, like Ronan Maher, Owen Connolly, we've seen that quite a bit. The ability to say, well, what's the danger at the moment and who's more? I'm saying Trayers, can he go in there and deny possession to Shane O'Brien, who I think is who he's going to mark? I think we'll see Darren Morrissey maybe on Galan. That's my guess. And then Peter Casey will go out. But I think what you might see is whoever's on Daithí Burke, and let's say Daithí's out at 6, might drift in towards the full forward line and see, can they dislodge, get him to, because if that is a concern, and let's say if what I'm saying here is correct, Galway will look to try and get Daithí Burke going back out towards the centre-back position and sit. But if Limerick are going to keep rotating to maybe... Because Limerick will rotate anyway to try and pick a hole, to try and find,
Disjoint you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't think it's that big of a call to put in someone like Fintan Burke as well. The only thing is that I wouldn't put him in based off the fact that he's been brilliant on Hegarty previously. I'd put him in based off the fact that he's absolutely flying it in training and is giving you every reason to put him in currently, because the backs had a mighty game the last day. And I'm not saying Ronan Lennon would be the sacrificial lamb. He wouldn't be. Ronan Lennon had a fucking mighty game last day. And I'm talking defensively. He got 3 points going forward. But Jay's defensively, I saw him going through a pain barrier. He got a slap in.
But can I ask you just at the moment, I hate touching on this question, but he's guaranteed All-Star. Are we agreed on that?
In the 7 position, let me think. I'm just trying to make sure there's no.
I feel like he is, lads.
I would say after the last weekend.
He's a great shot in fairness.
And the Dublin game. I feel like he's guaranteed All-Star, no?
Do you know what? He's like if Kyle Hayes takes up the line there once or twice now and scores a goal. Let's say he scores. Do you know All-Ireland finals carry such weight? Right.
They do.
But I would say, and a lot of people often talk about this. Who was it mentioned? Seamus Flanagan, I think, mentioned that the All-Star should be picked before the All-Ireland final. If you were picking him now, Ronan Lennon is an All-Star at left half back. Yeah.
I don't agree with him necessarily about picking him before the final, but I do feel bad for players sometimes when I think back at 12 months ago. I'd say if anyone listens back to this pod from last year, we were going, if Brian Hayes is a good All-Ireland final, Brian Hayes probably wins third of the year. If Cork win the All-Ireland, probably wins third of the year. And then Tipperary do a really good job of them in the All-Ireland final. The next thing the conversation goes a totally different direction. And it's, will Ronan Mara be player of the year? Will Jake Morris be player of the year? And it's like a guy who had done so much up to that point, it's almost all forgotten about because of the All-Ireland final. So the weighting is probably incorrect in terms of how much it has, but at the same time, I don't understand how important the Ireland final is.
Do you know what you need to do? You need to pick him at half-time in the All-Ireland final. That's what you need to do. Just pick him. That's the happy medium. So don't pick it after the full All-Ireland final. Pick it half-time, announce him, and just carry on with the match. And
Cork fans, don't come after us here for this joke. Please do not come after
present him to lads as they come back out the tunnel. Ronan, you're after getting an All-Star there. There you go. Congratulations.
Enjoy your second half.
You can play shit in the second half. You have an All-Star.
You're 100% right, obviously, with the fact that Limerick are going to move around, and even Hegarty, we've seen that this year, where at times like Aidan O'Connor is basically almost in the Aaron Gillan position when he receives the ball for that goal in the semi-final just gone by. Like, they will at different times, and it's so interesting to watch them when you're not on TV and you actually see how they rotate around. So at times Colin O'Neill was going much further forward than some of the others, and then Casey would kind of spin out for a little while. Aidan O'Connor would go a little bit deeper. You just never really know who's going to pick up where. Like the Gillan question when it comes to it, Paul, and I was asking your clubmate Richie Hogan about this, and he was thinking that it was almost impossible to think that Aaron Gillan would be dropped for the final, or the suggestion that he wouldn't play. It's almost impossible to think that Gillan would have 3 quiet games in a row. If you take Munster final the last day and then what happens here, are you expecting him to explode in the All-Ireland final, or is there a concern about his form coming into this?
I wouldn't have a concern on his form, because any team who plays Limerick, and this is high praise for Aaron Gillan, any team that plays Limerick looks at how do you shut down Gillan. That's one of the things you're looking at. Like, so when teams are successful in that to a degree, and also we're marking them off his own standards here. We're not marking them off, the standards of your average inter-county corner forward or full forward or whatever, just full forward line. We're marking them off the standards of Aaron Gillan and what we've seen over the last few years. He booked a few strange wides, if that's the way to call them, in the semi-final. I'm fairly sure he'd won kind of between 45 and 21 out near the Hogan. It wasn't near the sideline, but he just put it wide. But that nearly more seemed symptomatic of the nervy play Limerick had at that time, because like Sean Finn put a ball over the sideline from the cornerback position when usually they spread it wide. Dan Morrissey overshot it against when he went to go for Nicky Quaid over near the Cusack stand. So it wasn't just Gillan. He won't be dropped, though. I never doubt John Kiley to take off a fella, definitely, if he's not hurling well. But coming into the final, Gillan is one of those players that could come into the final and score 1-7 from play. That's the thing with it. And I would never feel it a risk starting him. Now, if Gillan's form and training wasn't good, again, I think John Kiley goes, listen, you're not hurling well here at the moment. He's not thinking of the semi-final. He's saying, listen, you're not really going well here now at the moment, and we think we're going to start Cathal O'Neill, centre forward, and move Aidan O'Connor in full forward, whatever. They have the ability to do that. But you asked, is it impossible? No, none of it's impossible. Like, it's not impossible that he doesn't start. He will start. If you were to ask me now, I'd say he will start. Is it impossible for him to have maybe 3 average games by his standard? No, that's also not impossible. We've seen plenty of players, if you go back through the years of when players were perceived to be dominant and you see that they didn't win an All-Star or something because they had an average year, it sometimes just happens. So it's not beyond the realms that, Gillan goes out, has a decent game, but comes off after 50 minutes. there's lots of things going to happen during this game that weren't planned. There's nothing to say that, Aaron Nyland doesn't go out and have a quiet game and is taken off after 40 minutes. And we go, Jesus, we weren't expecting that. We've seen plenty of players down over the years this happens to. So, and this is part of the intrigue of an All-Ireland final as well, that, the stakes are so high and the calls are so big, but neither manager can afford to be conservative in their decisions. Like, I think we saw Cork last year maybe hesitate when things weren't going their way to make a decision that would impact the change, make a change in the game. But you look at Kiley the last day, he brings on Cian Lynch, he brings on Mike Casey, where a lot of people bring on a forward, brings on Mike Casey. Mike Casey had a big impact when he came on because he got on very important. So you look at John Kiley, he's not afraid to make those decisions. So when I bring it back to the point you're saying about Gillane, if Gillane isn't playing well, I don't think John Kiley plays him. But I think Gillane is still playing to a standard and also has that bit of magic where you go, this lad could turn up and we'll know. I think in the first 10 minutes if Gillane is ready to rock. If he's on a few balls, you go, yeah, we're absolutely fine, because that nearly will tell you for the rest of the game what Aaron Gillane you're going to have.
Yeah, like Richie was making the point as well, Skehill, that he was saying even by his own experience, it can be a bit unusual if you're a reasonably regular free taker on a team and then the frees go to somebody else. Maybe you're not quite as involved. And in Gillane's case, that's obviously been the case where, he's not getting as many touches of the ball. And obviously, you're not going to take Aidan O'Connor off the frees. He's been immaculate, really, with them all season. But it just means that maybe Gillane is a little bit more isolated in his game involvement than he would have been previously. Because I'd say for loads of players, when they go into an All-Ireland final, the first thing they love to do is feel the weight of the sliotar on their boss, put over a handy free, and then as a forward, you're in the game.
Yeah, when this first came to light, let's say at the beginning of the year, the question I think we raised here was why were the frees taken off Aaron? Was it one of three reasons? A, to get Aidan O'Connor into a more prominent position so that he would feel more confident in open play. B, because, I'm not sure about this, Aidan O'Connor is a better free taker than Aaron. I don't think that's been proven to a level beyond reasonable doubt at the moment.
No, but you can't really argue against the way he's hit them all year.
No, I'm not, come here, at all. I'm not saying, but I don't think that he's head and shoulders above Aaron.
Okay, yeah.
Aaron Gillane's top free taker. But I don't think there's a considerable distance that would warrant the management team to go, yeah, we've got to change him as our free taker. I don't think that's fair. I think Aaron Gillane's a top free taker. So that's why I'm leaning more towards, that Aidan O'Connor will get him in the game. And the third one was, which I don't think happened at all, is Aaron Gillane doesn't want to take them. I put that way over here on the far end of the options, because every guy who hits frees wants to take frees. I think it's fair to say, Murphy. Every guy who's a free taker wants the ball anytime. So I put that way over there, out of the way. It's one of the first two. So, and look, it's worked. They're back to a final. Do you know what I mean? When you get to a final, you I suppose everything goes well. It's like it paints over the cracks. When you don't get to a final, every crack appears. So the last 2 years they didn't get to a final, and you don't get to a final because you just weren't good enough. That's for every team across the board. So I think everything then is under review. It's for assessment by the management team, and maybe the free taking was one of them. Maybe it was, but I would have thought that Aaron Gillane is such a prominent hurler and should be such a confident player in his own ability that it wouldn't matter for him to have the frees, because he's so good. Like when I look at the Limerick team of the past in the last number of years, there's only two players ever that were allowed shoot over their shoulder from the sideline, and that was Seamus Flanagan and Aaron Gillane. That's it. There was nobody else allowed to do this, repetitively. I'm saying get the ball over the shoulder. And the reason being is because they could do it. They were able to do it. So if you have someone who's able to do it and can execute that at such a high level, let them do it. So that all leads me to think that Aaron is such a good player that this kind of, I wouldn't call it a meaningless situation, with the guys with frees would bother him. I don't think it has. Do you know what I mean? He's getting on the ball. Like, he's not as lethal as we've grown accustomed to. But I would say the same thing for Hegarty. Hegarty has come back now, and this year I think is arguably, you can disagree with me here if I'm wrong, is arguably his best season since his Hurler of the Year season, Murphy, in 22, was it? Or 21. Whatever year it was, sorry. He got Hurler of the Year. In one of those years, he got the class score against Kilkenny in the final, whatever.
Well, that was 23, I think. But did he win Hurler of the Year in 21 when they hammered Cork?
Yeah, I think he won 21. But he's back to his 2020, 21.
My years after this, excuse me. But the point I'm trying to make is that this is probably, he's been his best season, as a whole, across the board, let's say, I would say consistently from all the championship games. So, my point being is, as I said earlier, the nucleus shifts to different players. And this year it's on Hegarty, whereas a couple of years ago it was on Aaron. Another year was on Cian Lynch. Another year was on Peter Casey, and it just evolves. That's because, again, the phrase I always use, Murph, is embarrassment of riches. So as a unit, Limerick are winning, and I took very, very, I took a lot of weight on what John Kiley said after the game when he was asked the question. I think it was actually by Tommy Will, on about your talisman, Aaron Gillane, and John Kiley shot that question down straight away. He said, "We don't have talisman. We've got the group." He kept going on about the group, and then he brought in the supporters about their job. He said, everyone's got a job, let's say, and if we're winning, everyone's doing their job to a certain level. And he said, look, everyone has to participate. And the same goes for Aaron Gillane. So that's just the way it is. And I was gassed. I was looking at the Hurler of the Year odds there a while ago, and there's 17 Limerick players on the Hurler of the Year odds.
Who's favourite?
17. Hegarty, yeah. He's odds on.
Do you know?
What I mean is 17, not just 15. Fucking 17. Do you know what I mean? There's lads that won't start the finals that are in the Hurler of the Year conversation. You know?
Yeah. One of the things I was just thinking about with Hegarty, I think the role of Hegarty has changed a bit. Like the year he won Hurler of the Year in 21, let's say, or the year he scored the goal against Kilkenny in 23, like hung it up in the top corner. Like we associated Gearóid Hegarty with these incredible scores. Like I'm thinking the one he scored against Waterford down in Welsh Park was like a golf shot on the 65. He just dropped it down and just like tapped it over. I can't think of a score really that Gearóid Hegarty got like that this year. And the reason I make that point is because his role has completely changed in that I think leadership-wise this year, he's been unbelievable. Like he's always been a leader for Limerick. But that semi-final, where I'm correct in saying he didn't score. Did he? Did he score a point?
No, he didn't score.
Yeah.
Player of the game without a score.
Player of the like. There's the first thing. As a forward, player of the match without a score. But it was, we spoke the week previous about, and we spoke with Dermot O'Sullivan about Cork's inability for someone to step up and make a play when they weren't scoring after the 38th minute. And maybe some people went, well, what are you talking about there? Look at Gearóid Hegarty in the semi-final when Limerick are down by 6 points and needs someone to step up. And he's going fielding balls, taking on lads, maybe getting a free. Aidan O'Connor, you put that over, he resets. And the other thing I say about him is he's not getting involved in a lot of like, getting drawn into niggly bullshit. Like remember before there was this thing where you maybe had a little fear that geez, Hegarty now, he got the red card up in innocent time, albeit a bit of diving, he got the red card. It wasn't overly his fault, but left himself open to be in a position where a lad might try and draw him into it. He gets a lot of lads up in his face, nudging him, pushing him, and he's walking away from it. He's just going, no, I'm going on to the next ball. And I just think that presence he has now, there's a huge calming effect he has in the Limerick team. And like, I think it's a very remarkable thing. If he goes and wins Hurler of the Year, I don't know what he scored this year, but I would argue to say it's probably lower than what he scored other years, where maybe let's say the year he won Hurler of the Year already, or even in 2023, because I think it's the presence of his ability to lead this Limerick team, to get them back into the game by just making plays and bringing other lads in. Like you were talking there, Aidan O'Connor scored the goal in the final. Quite a few of Aidan O'Connor's, I'd say I think all his points were from frees, I think, but vast majority.
Hegarty won 3 or 4 of them for points.
There you go. Like he won it, he resets. Aidan O'Connor puts it over. Like Aidan O'Connor, I'm not saying off the back of that had it built his confidence, but when the goal came, Aidan O'Connor had been involved in the game. So my point being is that I just think that Hegarty's ability to bring the rest of the team up and make them rise up to the challenge has been huge this year. And that semi-final performance was not like the Gearóid Hegarty we were seeing in 20 and 21, where it was his scores that were nearly lifting the team. It was just his presence and his ability. So yeah, I just think it's an interesting change in a very small period of time. His role.
He has 2-8 from Playmouth.
How the fuck did you remember that?
2-8 from play, yeah.
Well, that's great. Like, I mean, I'm not shooting it down at all, but I'm just saying he probably, someone will jump in anyway, but I'd imagine he scored more in 23 after by the time the final came out.
I know exactly what you're saying. I can picture in the 23 final where he's shoving someone off and shoots. I think he scored 1-5 in the final. Would that be fair to say?
I think so, yeah.
And his last point was like from 70 yards off after shugging off a Kilkenny man.
Yeah.
So he's very prominent in the scoring stakes, whereas this year it feels like he's had a more shifted approach in the sense that he does what the team needs. So like what the team needs at times, he needs to go to full forward. Yeah. And he needs to be the big number, the big full forward that can hold the ball up just to stretch the pitch a bit more if it gets condensed. He did that against Cork and did it against somebody else. Helped me out. As Clare, was it or someone?
He went further forward against Clare, yeah. Yeah,
just to stretch the pitch, and it works. And what happens? He did it against Waterford too, didn't he? Where goals come either through himself or through others. Like, so he's a talisman, and like his relationship with Nicky on the puck out is excellent. And like we talked about the pace at which Nicky gets his puck outs off. I said it a couple of years ago, like that their scoring chances goes way up when he gets the puck out off within 7 seconds. So, but like he is pushing boundaries at the moment, and I love Nicky. Don't get me wrong, I love him, but he's pushing the pace very, very hard. And I felt sorry for Eva Quilligan because the last day, I don't know if you noticed, he got pulled 3 times the first time.
Puckouts, yeah, he did.
But nothing happened. It didn't happen to the Limerick side.
And what I noticed is that the officials beforehand, right, we were taking a look down the pitch. There were 2 things we were watching was how much of a part is Cian Lynch going to play in the warm-up. So you're watching over that side because he led them out. Because where we had heard all the rumours up in the press box that he might not play at all, the hamstring's been playing up on him, and you're going, he looks free enough now when he's moving around. And the other one, and then I was looking over at Quilligan, and the officials on that end had clearly gone to have a chat with him, and I presume it was probably about quick puckouts, because straight away they get pulled during the game, which is very unusual. We had a thrown ball being called during the game, and we had short puckouts being called, but they were all down the Clare end.
Yeah, they were, because I like the thing about this is that I know Nicky, like he gets them off exceptionally fast. He got them off in the group game very fast and not being pulled, which again, like, it can give a team an advantage. Don't get me wrong. I just think if who's the referee, something that's
Colin Lyons.
Colin Lyons, senior referee like that. We it's equal across the board. As for the throws, I can't understand the throws, because the last goal that they got, and prove me wrong now, please, the goal that Aidan O'Connor got, there's 2 clear throws, fucking clear as day, right? And play on, and ends up in the back of the net. And I'm like, Jesus, has anyone seen this? Like, or is it just me? The blatantness of throws. So whatever happens on Sunday, just as it happens the same for both teams, there'll be no giving out from me, as long as it's the same for both. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. All right.
Am I wrong or right?
Well, no, if it's the same for both teams, yeah, 100%.
You can't see my hands are out this way. I'm waving my hands.
We can see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know. You're leaning into your supporter now. You're getting into Galway mode now. Full Galway.
Just a little bit, yeah. How do you feel, from a totally neutral perspective, before Skehill gets argued that he's trying to put pressure on Colin Lyons here, about Colin getting the final? Because a lot of us thought, Murph, that James Owens would get this, and he was on the way out. And this is the way it happened with Keenan a few years ago. His last game would be the All-Ireland final, particularly when he wasn't a semi-final referee. And then kind of call him out of nowhere, because he hasn't reffed since, I'm going to say it was the Limerick tip game. It was definitely a month and a half ago since he's refereed. I know he's been a line official at some of those games over the last few weeks, and then he comes in for the final. So what's your feeling about him getting the final?
Yeah, I didn't. I saw it was announced. It didn't put in or out with me. Like, I know, I didn't say that, oh, Jesus, I don't know, is he ready for this rant? Like, Colin Lyons is a great referee. The only man to ever send me off, actually, in my life. But
what did he send you off for?
Actually, against Galway. It was actually... Yeah, this instance, yeah. It was wrong. He shouldn't have sent me off. I got a lot of messages afterwards. It's like your man. It's like your man. You know, in the Shawshank, where they say, "What are you in for?" And they say, didn't do it." Or the lawyer fucked me. No, Davy Burke flicked the ball over my head, and I watched the ball go over my head. And Davy Burke ran into me, and he gave me a second yellow. It was very harsh, but I don't hold it against him, and I don't hold it against him on Sunday either. Like, I think he's a really good ref. And I don't know how they pick these things either, because I kind of got the impression over the last couple of years, having never thought about it before, I got the impression over the last couple of years that it was kind of a quarter-final ref gets the final, because it's like, I don't know how that, it's usually
if you don't, like, if you get a semi-final, it almost certainly rules you out, but it's not a hard and fast rule at the same time.
It's not either. So I don't know how to pick it, and I'm not saying that as like, how did they pick Colin? I'm not saying that. I don't see the rhyme or reason or how they pick it, or how they, I thought it would be James Owens as well. Again, because it's his last year. But again, I suppose you can't just go with, it's someone's last year. You have to give it to him as well either. So, no. And I saw that announcement, I was going, no, fair play to him. Like, it's obviously a real high point for his career as well. So, and I have no problems with it. I can't remember, I'm sure, some people would have certain referees where they remember decisions. I don't remember anything over the last year, 2 years, 3 years that Colin Lyons has done that I'm like, Jesus, would the day get to him? I think he's a very accomplished referee.
I did ask you about Rory Burke earlier on, Skehill, and we ended up going off talking about the Limerick forward line for a few minutes. I don't know how fit he is. I think Micheál had said they were hopeful he'd be fit for the final. Given how good he was in the Leinster final, it'd be a big boost to have him, wouldn't it?
I think he needed everyone. I think if we're talking about Rory Burke, everyone would place him as a starter immediately. But like, if you got Rory Burke coming in the last 15 minutes, like that's a great, strong person, strong player going into a forward unit, attacking a tired set of backs. I'm saying in theory, great to have, super to have. Like, for us to get over the line against this Limerick team, we're going to need 20 people to play above a level that we played against Corkwood. To be fair,
okay.
The 15 won't survive. I'm telling you now, from minute 0 to 75, they won't survive. They won't see it out. It needs to be 20 people, and I think it needs to be on both sides of the pitch. Sometimes if you're chasing the game, you have a habit of bringing in forwards first, but we're going to need, relief in the back line, and injection of pace and energy in the forward line. That's just what the game warrants. I think that's fair to say. So if you had him to partake for 20 minutes, that's some boost. But like that, it's been a repetitive issue with him with the hamstring. Hamstrings are a tough one to I can't say I suffered too much with hamstring injuries before. Murphy, you might come in better, but
you're foot and turf this weekend. Your hamstrings are fairly good. So.
Yeah, but that's just Dom's, just a pain that won't go away. I wasn't sprinting up and down the bog filling the trailer. Oh, geez, yeah. But like, I think if you tear a hamstring and you get back to a certain level of fitness and it goes again, that's that's a bit tricky to get fully fit in the timeline we need to get fit for this match. Should be fair to say. So from when the ball gets thrown in, it'll have been 6 weeks. But how much preparation would he have had? Like, would he have had 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week? I don't know. Sharpness. This will be the sharpest game of the year. This is the lads in their absolute prime, and you would think that this is where they raise the level to the top performance possible. So for him to get up to that level whilst being injured for a certain period of time is going to be tricky. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people are different, but it's hard to see how he wouldn't get up to this level without 3 or 4 weeks solid pace work and training field.
Yeah, he's a race to be fit, as we would say if we were writing a newspaper article about this game. John Kiley said at the media night, Murph, that Cian Lynch is flying. That's the state his fitness is at, so he reckons he's 100% good to go as captain for this coming weekend.
That's the medical term, flying it. That's the medical term.
Flying it. Assuming he is flying it, and to be fair, when he came on, he didn't seem to show any ill effects when he came on during the semi-final. There's a decision to be made there now. Like Adam English, Darragh Donovan going, well, Cian Lynch. I know he will start if he's fit. Don't get me wrong here, but just play devil's advocate for a second. He 100% starts, does he?
If he's fit, he starts. It's Cian Lynch. I would find it, so hard not to start him. And it's crazy. It's really remarkable to be saying that someone like Adam English mightn't be starting, because I love watching Adam English. I just think he's one of the best hurlers in the country to watch. He's a Rolls Royce of a player, but Cian Lynch is Cian Lynch, generational player, 2 hurler of the years, I think. And when he hurled at that centre forward position, trying to think which final that was it 21 maybe? He hurled it. Was it the Cork one? And he was 21. Just pulling the strings everywhere. Yeah, he was ridiculous. He just starts and that's it. And if John Kiley's saying he's flying it, that's enough for me. And the thing is, it's even if they had 6 forwards and Cian Lynch. And the 6 forwards were mighty in the semi-final, and Cian Lynch had no role to play. Cian Lynch, if he's fit and he's flying it again, you're there going...
You still want him dictating the game, don't you?
Yeah, completely, because that's the other side of it. It doesn't just come down to brass tacks of skill. It just doesn't come down to, this fella has a great touch or whatever. It comes down to a lad's ability to influence a game. And Cian Lynch's ability to get on the ball, have a look around and make plays, create players for other players, because that's a big part of what he is. Yes, he gets scores and all that, but he's a supremely talented player who brings other players into the game and picks out the best pass when he's on the ball. So he looks for a player, goes, that's the right pass. I was mentioning Adam English. I'm trying to think, was it against Cork in the Gaelic grounds last year, not in the Munster final, before that, in the round robin, where he set up Adam English for the goal. I think he looked back over the shoulder and flicked it back to him. Stuff like that. So if he starts, I know he was named... Was it midfield in the semi-final? I still think it's centre forward is where he plays. I just think he starts, and it might be a case where he's down as number 8, but he actually starts centre forward. I just think that's where they'll. And you look, they might even go to say, Aidan O'Connor, you could be in, full forward or corner forward, because Aidan O'Connor has played in there, and when he got the goal as well, it could be a case where if it is he plays there, you push in or even push out, because Aidan O'Connor, I don't think maybe he played midfield at. During the league against Tipperary, but he played deep. He played as a deep centre forward. So look, they have options. I'm trying to figure out where they move everyone else. That's basically my answer there. Cian Lynch starts. Yeah.
I would think, Skehill, they probably want to keep Darragh Donovan there just for the balance in the midfield, or is it possible you could go to midfield of Adam English and Cian Lynch?
I think if you're again in a similar instance I was talking about Rory Burke, I think if you're looking for an impact off the bench. Again, respectfully, I think Adam English would give you a lot more, pace and energy and attacking threat than Darragh Donovan would. Again, everyone has their job, everyone has their role, but trying to fit, it's like trying to put the square into the circle. Limerick have so many players, trying to fit them onto a 15 is very hard. But go back to the top of your question, just Cian Lynch start? Absolutely, 100% he starts. If he's fully fit and he's flying, as they say, he starts. So someone else has to suffer, unfortunately. And I think if you have Adam English sit on the bench for 50 minutes, I know it looks like a travesty, Murph. It's a disgrace for a player of his talent, but then you bring him in for the last 25. Jesus, what a player to bring in. As a Galway person, I hate to see it. I hate to see it. I'm now wishing the game is 13 aside. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't want these lads to come on. There's too many of them. But if you start Adam English and Cian Lynch, you have a great midfield. Don't get me wrong, but they're going to need assistance as the game goes on. Do you bring in Darragh Donovan? I just don't think he has the same oomph, if you want to use that word, as if you reversed it and started Darragh with Cian Lynch and bring in Adam English after. But again, bars from the riches. They have too many players. So, like, yeah, and they have the beautiful ability to rotate. Like, every player is strong and versatile in numerous positions. Like, you would think nothing lads are putting, as you said, Murph, Aidan O'Connor to 14 to 10, Cian Lynch to 11 to 10. You know, and English could go to 11, 15. He had 15 years back for a while, remember?
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think they're limited by, you know, positional. They're not dictated by certain positions for certain players. I think the only person that plays in a set position, if I'm honest, is probably Gillan in the full forward line as a whole. So, yeah, what I'm expecting is Lynch to come. And I would say on a side note, I love when they released him against Clare. They brought him on just as the Clare crowd were going nuts after Connie Kelly's penalty. Yeah. On trots Cian Lynch. And Clare don't score again. Like, that can't be a coincidence. I know you might say it can't be a coincidence. We bring on your own talisman or one of them, and he just gets involved straight away. It's his ability to win the ball in such tight circles and release a small pass, and then next thing you know, there's so much space opened up.
It's exactly like the goal.
Well, if you can get a player, right, who's able to secure the ball in real tight circles under pressure when there's numerous bodies in that position, he's able to exit and just do a one pass, a 3-yarder, 4-yarder, and next thing you know, there's green grass in front of you. That player, as you said, Murphy, is a Rolls Royce as well. I know what you're referencing, the other Adam, but that's a very, very hard player to get and to coach that, who can have that ability to unlock, you know, especially in today's game where we know the midfield area is just so congested. So when you get a player like Cian Lynch that can just open it up through the split pass, as you call it, like it's like picture the most valuable central midfielder in soccer, you know, who's able to have that forward pass set up for the forwards. That's what you're talking about in Cian Lynch. Same, exact same instance, I'm afraid.
All right, let's look at maybe some of the lessons from last weekend. So for you, Murph, and you've already said that, you know, Limerick were put off their game somewhat by Clare with the matchups that Clare played in the first half. If Galway are doing the video review of that first half from last weekend, what do they want to bring that maybe Clare did to put Limerick off their game this coming weekend?
What do they want to bring? Well, something that just seems very basic. And it's almost a cliche, is just getting the matchups really right. Like it's kind of something we mention in every week, but Clare was a great example of, you know, even bringing on bolters like John Conlon out towards midfield because they saw him fit to do a certain job. Like Darragh Lohan had an outstanding game at cornerback, how they moved around Tony Kelly and Shane O'Donnell as well. Like Shane O'Donnell didn't just sit full forward where we kind of expected him to sit. He drifted out further. And part of the rotation of forwards in particular as well, the reason it's very useful is to see, if you watch the forwards, your own forwards as they rotate, see who goes with them. So then you can identify, well, clearly, you know, if we have Gearóid Hegarty at, let's say, wing forward, but he drifts into centre forward and Ronan Lennon stays with him, we'll send him in towards full forward. See, does Ronan Lennon go with him again? And if he does, clearly Ronan Lennon is going to try and follow him. And you should have a plan then to say, where does Ronan Lennon not want to play? Because if he's going to follow Hegarty, and that's just a hypothetical one. So then also you're thinking then as well, like Limerick are looking, and I'll go back to Galway in a minute, but like Limerick will be looking at Daithí Burke. Is Daithí Burke deliberately taking up anyone, or is a position more important to him, or is a player more important to him? Because if you think a player is going out there and might be 90% fit or 80% fit, albeit I know the Galway lads are saying Daithí Burke is a different beast altogether, you're still I know, but you're still going to look for somewhere where you can exploit that. So where I think Galway look at is Limerick. Clare injected a small bit of chaos into that half forward line and full forward line. They dragged the shape around quite a bit. They left, like Tony Kelly went in full forward and was attacking out on ball, and there was pace used against the full back line of Limerick. And in particular, let's say the two bigger lads of Dan Morrissey and Sean Finn, like Barry Nash, you know, he drifts up the field a little bit more. So if he gets pulled out, he's happy to keep going out, and he doesn't mind it. But whereas when Tony Kelly went in and Dan Morrissey and won primary possession, it then created a little bit of a conundrum because you had an extremely athletic player now in open space, may be able to take on Dan Morrissey. So Galway looking, who could take him on? Like Conor Whelan is a really good match for Dan Morrissey. Like, if I was Dan Morrissey, we'd go on Conor Whelan, brilliant. Because we're both physically we're the same. We're both can cover ground, and okay, maybe Conor Whelan has a touch extra of pace than Dan Morrissey, but I think Dan Morrissey has a nice bit of pace for that. Whereas they might go, okay, Rabbit and Dan Morrissey, or maybe they look to throw someone else in there to try and drag Dan Morrissey out of it. So the big thing I'd be saying for Galway is that they'll look to completely disrupt structure. They'll look to try and identify who are the man markers going to be, and then try and drag those man markers out of their natural habitat. So again, if it is a case that Sean Finn takes up somebody to go, right, You get yourself out to the 45 and get the legs moving and see how far Sean Finn will go with you. Or if it's the case that Will O'Donoghue is staying after, Will O'Donoghue is tagging Cathal Mannion or whatever like that. See if Cathal Mannion goes deep. Will O'Donoghue follow him? He won't, because Galway or Limerick have really good shape. So I don't think that'll be a case. But for me, a few of the big ones there are literally going to be the rotating of the forwards. I don't think the Galway forwards can really stay still for too long. I think Tom Monaghan dropping deep, which he's really good at, and taking up the ball may cause problems for Kyle Hayes, because if Tom Monaghan starts in the 10 position, which correct in saying he started there the last day and he's been there most time.
Yes.
If he drops deep, it asks the question, does Kyle Hayes go with him? Which Kyle Hayes is capable of doing, but it now creates a channel free behind where do you now land the ball into where you have your Nylands, your Rabbits, whoever breaking onto. So those are the type of questions you're trying to ask. It's very hard for a centre forward, like whoever will be in the centre forward position. It's very hard for the centre forward to drop out and create space, because you're automatically running into your Darragh O'Donovans and your whoever. But the wing forwards have a little bit more freedom to cut across to the other side. So basically go from 10 and run right across to 12 and see, does Kyle Hayes follow you? Or also then drop really deep and look for the ball off the wing backs. So there's a few things there. And it's the old one that nearly every team is doing at the moment. 2 wing forwards dropping deep and looking for the ball. And if they don't give them the ball, you have a channel behind you where you can drop it into your full forward line who are breaking out onto it. So it's very hard to pick a hole in this Limerick defence. Very, very hard to do it. But you won't do it without a lot of movement. You won't do it without a lot of communication. And you won't do it staying in your own position. You won't do it by just saying, I'm 14, I'm staying in 14. You're going to have to play 10, 12, 13. You're going to have to move. So for me, those are the 3 things that to inject a bit of chaos. And by saying inject chaos, I'm not saying that you're going to completely unlodge Limerick and beat them by 10 points. I'm saying that it might create the opportunity of a goal, and the goal might bring you ahead by a point or two. Like, such fine margins to try and go and beat this Limerick team, that's the type of margins I'd be looking at for them to reap benefits on the scoreboard for Galway.
Similar question for you, Skehill. What would Galway like to take out of maybe the second half performance against Cork into this Limerick game? Would it be the work rate? Would it be the aggression? What do you want to see that was so good about that second half if they're going to bring it into a final?
The second half particularly, I thought we were a key to me for this game is the fact that we're in the Limerick game now, the final coming up, we're probably going to have the best part of 80 opportunities on puckouts in terms of dead ball. So when you take a look at the shot count of both these teams, they shoot very, very high. So there's going to be a whole host of puckouts on both sides. And I think in the second half against Cork, we got really dominant on both sides of the ball. So I have often referenced about the scrum in rugby, if it's going backwards, it's very hard for a team to fix it. But if it's going forward, it gives you a superb platform. And Galway just got on top in that third quarter, whereby they won, I think 8 out of 9 Cork puckouts in a row, and also secured over 80% of their own. So when you have those kind of numbers, it's very, not that it's easy, but it provides you a great platform to go forward. And it provides you a great platform to do the things that Murph was saying. At least you had a bit of movement in your forwards because they don't have to be trudging back the whole time defending. Let's say if your defensive unit are winning dead ball and your own forwards are winning the dead ball as well from your own puck out, it provides a great platform both sides. I think it does anyway. And if that's one thing. The second thing is our defensive shape. I like the way we were against Cork, to be fair. There was always one, if not 2 men back, Will. I don't like to see us getting out, rotated out of position, because Murph asked the question about Tom Monaghan, and I think we've seen before the Limerick half back line, they will stay zone. They don't move. You'll never see Kyle Hayes or Jimmy Bird switching, taking runners that go laterally. That just doesn't happen. They always stay at their own side, and they pick the right moment to push up, but they don't push up too far. The only man that pushes up far is always the 6. Always the 6. And because what they do is they cut out the middle, if you know what I mean. And the 6 channel, in theory, is the easiest challenge to defend, because Hayes and Burns, they cut in, if you know what I mean. They stay infield, if you like, right? If Burns goes off up the pitch, or Hayes, I think you can expose them by getting crossfield ball, etc. So getting Limerick half back line to move is going to be a very tricky proposition. So if we can keep our defensive shape, i.e. not having to be rotating, if we can get on top of the dead ball. Now, when I say on top, I mean if you can hit 70% on your own puck out and get, if you get 40 to 50 on that position, you're having a fantastic day. You're having a super day. The stats from the Limerick semi-final will show you that they secured 45% of the clear puck out in the second half. That's a big percentage now. That's a really big percentage. That's huge. So, and whilst also securing 75 of their own, that means they had the ball an awful lot of the time. Do you know what I mean, on the dead ball? So if you can secure that, gives you a great platform to go forward. And the last one that I have is slickness. So when Limerick are always going we would have always referenced how slick they are. Like the ball's not going to ground, moves not breaking down because the ball is behind the man and over man, etc. Like they've always been very slick with how they transfer the ball from the backs to the forwards. And in our second half against Cork, I thought we were super slick, to be fair. So if we can introduce that, particularly in the middle where things are going to be very congested, it's going to be a war zone, let's be honest. If we can have that where we get the ball exited out of the middle straight away into forward units, we've got a chance. But I'm after naming off a whole host of things there, right, that we know Limerick are fantastic at. The three things I've just said Limerick are fantastic at. So for us to get on top of them is going to be a ferocious task. Like I'm not bullshitting here, lads. Like this is a harder game for us, much harder from where I sit before the Cork game, where I sit now. Do you know what I mean? It's much harder. Like in the Cork game, I was a bit nervous. I was thinking, geez, like if we show up, let's say we'll give it a contest. Whereas here, we have to show up to keep it a contest. Straight up. Now, that's not me talking shit now. I think that Limerick have this ability to play well in finals. That record doesn't come from nothing. Like, it just doesn't. You don't get, what is the will? Help me out. 18 or 19, is it?
Yeah. Just the one penalty defeat.
You don't get that, like, without being, ultra slick, fucking aggressive, workman, like, deadly on your own ball, dead ball, I'm saying. So, like, for us to try and get over that and navigate through that for 75 minutes is a ferocious task.
Yeah. You tell me, Murph, you were saying on the telly on Monday morning after the semi-final weekend, you just have a bit of a feeling about Galway this year. All joking aside, and you saying to Skehill, was it back in March or April when lads were on the live chat going,
I thought he was correct.
Are Galway really back? And he's going, back them. I hope somebody listened to us in the chat and took that very earnestly and went, I'll back Galway back at the start of the championship, and they'd be laughing now. You could lay that bet off, happy days, and have a holiday probably at this stage. But what was it that made you think, start of this week, and I appreciate that was 13 days before the final, that you were having a bit of an inkling towards Galway winning this in the end?
No, it was very much gut instinct. I'm not saying that I analysed it any great amount on the Monday morning. Where it completely came from was the manner in which both semi-finals were won. Like, Galway performed in a way that I wasn't expecting. And so when you're trying to analyse a team and they come with something you're not expecting, you then kind of have to sit back and go, well, I can analyse them for the next match, but they've already proven to me that they're able to exceed expectations. And it was also the spirit in which they showed and go and winning it. Like, there was such a wave of confidence, of belief, the manner in which they didn't fall over the line. Like, they could have won this match by 13 points. Like, it was a remarkable victory. And the feeling afterwards, I got just a huge sense of, like, belief and spirit and no fear. Just, we came up here. People didn't back us in terms of outside of our county. Skehill, just shut up for a minute.
You're getting me going.
I know. Sorry, I thought you were going to say stop building this up. But no, that was it. And on the Monday morning afterwards, I went, like, up until 10 minutes to go in Clare and Limerick, I was breaking an egg off my head in an hour's time. Like, so true. I was going, God almighty. And so my gut instinct on the Monday morning, I just went, Jesus, maybe Galway are going to do this. Now, the funny thing is, since we started recording, I'm looking out the window here and I'm going, Jesus, I've made some amount of points as to how it's going to be fair tough for them to beat Limerick. And now I'm after confusing myself altogether. But to answer your question, you said the start of this week, why did I say it? I was sitting down and it was on Ireland AM and both people went for Limerick. And I went, geez, you're writing off Galway very quickly here. Like, they weren't meant to come within an ass's roar. And I back Cork. They weren't meant to come within an ass's roar of Cork. And by 60 minutes, that game was over. I was turned to the lads beside me and said, this is over. This is done. Like, I can't see Galway losing this. So when I said that earlier in the week, it was very much from a place of going, Jesus, Galway could really do it here. Where am I now? I'm now after going, Jesus, I'm after spending an hour saying exactly why Limerick are going to win the final. So, does that answer your question, Will? You asked me why did I pick him earlier in the week?
It does. As in, like, it's still a gut feeling at this stage, as opposed to here's any specific reason I think it'll happen.
No, that's exactly. It's a gut. It was a gut on Monday. I just went, Jesus, I don't know why my waters are telling. It's like when we said, me and you, Will, we said Clare were going to beat Cork in 2024, and we couldn't couch it in any sort of, this is how they're going to do it. We were like, just for some reason, they could do it. What I will say is this: this is where I'm basing the Galway performance, or if Galway were to win it from. If Limerick turn up as they did in the first half against Clare, and this is full respect to Limerick and the sport, but I think the supporters would know this. What they played in the first half, and you could say some of it was enforced upon them upon Clare, but they were nervy, they were cagey, and they didn't hurl with real freedom. Whereas in the second half, they hurled with real freedom. If Limerick hurl like that, the way they did in the second half for 70 minutes, it'll take a lot for Galway to beat them. if Limerick hurl like they did in the first 35 minutes against Clare, I think Galway will sense blood and go for it. So I think maybe that's where a lot of people are coming from here, is that Limerick showed two different sides to them on the day. And I think a lot of people would say about Limerick now is that, well, the main thing is that when the pressure came on, Limerick responded, and that's the type of team Limerick are. So a lot of people would be saying that for the final as well. So it just depends. I really think, again, what if the Limerick performance is close to what they did in the first half against Clare, I really don't think that'll be good enough. But if it's what they do for 70 minutes, if they do what they did for 35 minutes in the second half, it'll be very tough for Galway to beat them there.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Skehill. I was talking to some Tipperary supporters last night. It was in Nina. And they were saying there's definite echoes, something we said earlier this year, of this Galway team being a bit like Tipperary last year. Weren't really expected to win early in the championship. Kind of worked their way through. Interesting young players coming. Looked like maybe there's a bit of fresh blood. Their performances got better as the championship went on, and they turned up in a final. And despite the fact that you've said things like, I hate Tipperary along the way, they were basically saying to me that they reckon Galway had every chance when it came to the All-Ireland final. No grudges held. These young men I met in Nina last night.
Can I ask you, Skehill, are you happy in this instance to be compared to Tipperary as a Galway man? Is this the one time where you go, actually, I'll take it?
In this specific bespoke instance, Murph, yes, only this instance. Everyone knows what I mentioned when I said I hate Tip. I don't have, it was the rivalry between both. Is the Tip, like, the fact that they beat Cork, and we've seen what Cork have done down in Croke Park recently, does that, like...
Oh, no, we're not. No. We're not getting into a debate that it was a cheap All Ireland because they beat Cork. Is this what you're trying to bring is it?
I am trying to draw on every single reason and sinew as to why Galway are going to win. I'm trying to pick them all. I'm trying to say, yes, we can win for this reason, because you're a bit like the head and the heart. My head has analysed Limerick so much. I've analysed them so much, let's say, off the record here. So for the last 5 or 6 years, that I have every number on them. And like when you see them, you're like, geez, that's supreme level operation. Like, how would you beat them? So I'm looking for every reason that would say or point towards Galway winning, right? There's not a lot at the moment now, okay, but we'll get there. We'll get there at the minute.
What about Galway's last two performances in Croke Park? Excellent in the Leinster final and really good the last.
They've been fantastic, but I would say facing Limerick in the final at this point is just different. It's different. I think it's hard for me to explain. Murph, help me out. Like, from a player perspective, you don't give a shit. You don't care who you're playing. It's the final. Finals are there for winning. And I did say last week that supporting the team is way harder than playing. And I stand by that 100%, because you're not in the camp. You have no idea what's going on. You have no idea what tactical approach or matchups. Because I guarantee you, when they leave on Friday evening or Thursday evening, they'll believe in their matchups. They'll believe in their system and their game plan. They're fully confident, right? So you have confidence as a player going away that we're going to attack the opposition. I know fucking nothing as a supporter. I don't know who's marking who. Right? I don't know who's fit. I'm nervous as shit. Okay, all I see is them lads in green heading for what? The 75th All Ireland. I'm like, oh my God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is what's getting me. And then I have you lads like putting the shits in me. Like, Murph, you gave such a good account of what Limerick were there. I was thinking, fuck, will I go to the match at all? Like, you get what I'm trying to say here. It's just, but there is hope. And like when you started at the start of the year, Murph, in March or February, and you said this goal.
I could see it then. I could see it.
The Messiah. I kept on thinking to myself, this is strange like Tipperary. It's like really, really strange like Tipperary. And I keep pointing. I kept on using players like Sam Farrell and Darren McCarthy. And we've our three lads up the top now with Neary, Rabbit, and Nyland. No one speaks of Darren Neary. He's just a horse. The kind of essential piece you need in a team. Do you know what I mean?
He's there, Tom Morrissey, kind of, isn't he? Like, yes. I know Tom Morrissey isn't starting now, but like that.
I agree with you. And like his role allows the Rabbits and the Manions to flourish, I believe. Because he's a very systematic type player. So my point being is, like, we've got new players in positions. Like you said about at the start of the show, where there was 12 guys that were remarkably similar. 12 guys played Galway in 2022, whereas we had 5. Do you know what I mean? In that game. So we've had 10 changes where they've had 3. So I'm thinking, yes, and there's pros and cons to that, as we always say. So I'm trying to look for every reason or every aspect of the game that'll say point towards a Galway victory, but we're up against it. And as long as we play 15 on 15 and it's not 15 versus 16, I'll be happy. right? To a certain degree. Okay.
Can I just throw in something? You mentioned something there coming in. I don't know what you mentioned, but it triggered something in my brain. I'm going to call something now, right?
Oh,
No. It's not a big call. It's not a big call. It's something I've observed over the last couple of years. Wait till you see, and like it's probably common knowledge. Wait till you see the amount of things where lads will go, this player's out this weekend, this lad's starting, got injured during all this crack goes on. Like I remember seeing grainy videos of Cian Lynch getting out of a car with a hamstring injury there a couple of years ago, and he was fine. He was fine. Like the modern age of lads with camera phones and the grainiest photo of what could have been Cian Lynch. Was it Bigfoot? Was it Cian? Who knows? But I remember the final last year. Tipping Cork, and I stood beside Shamey Callanan. Shamey was doing the BBC as well, and Shamey goes, I think he named 2 lads out. Darren McCarthy's out, this fella's out, and these 2 lads are in, and this fella's going to hurl centre back, and that lad's going to be midfield. None of it was correct. The team played, I think, pretty much as per.
Yeah.
And then the last day, then as well, for both matches, there was this changed, that changed, this. Nothing. So wait till you hear for the final now. Something will happen. And I don't know, is there lads going around just starting these things where they just go, Jace, you know what would be good crack now? Say Gerard Hegarty is out now, or say Cathal Mannion is out, and see how far it gets. Because by the time you get to Croke Park, Jace, half the lads are on a stretcher.
They're at home, yeah.
Jace, I won't feature. Jace, he didn't hurl during the week. So all I'm saying is, watch out for that. Be wary of it. Don't listen to it. And when you see whoever's marching behind Artane by his band, only then go, that's what.
Yeah,
So,
I wonder about similar. There's a few people who DM me privately on Twitter with bits and pieces, and some of them have proved to be very trustworthy over the last year or two. The problem is that most of them are talking bollocks when they send you messages. And I guarantee they're doing exactly what you said, Murph.
Deliver
boys are getting ready to record a podcast here. How far can we get round to say that actually Rabbit picked up an injury in training and geez, he's a big doubt for this weekend, or Galan's 100% out? You hear this all the time.
How often have we actually done that where we come on and we say, right lads, I have 3 rumours for you here, I'm going to do. We don't actually do it. So
no, it's not really our game. Skehill, you look in pain there. What's wrong?
I was going back through Murph's synopsis of the game when you asked him to call it. I don't think he named anyone. He gave a good feeling for Galway, but then he gave a great case for Limerick. Who are you going for, Murph?
You've seen through my plan.
Colours the mess now.
I genuinely know I was coming onto this going, I'm picking Galway, and sure, we've just spent an hour and 35 explaining why Limerick are going to be so hard to beat. My gut is still saying Galway. Like I'm finding it harder now to explain why I've even said that. I'll just go with Galway. I'm going with Galway. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's even tougher when you're doing Limerick. It's tougher when you're doing Limerick Supporters Club event tomorrow night. So we might release, when I'm coming up the road, I might text you, Will, and you can release this tomorrow night at like 10 o'clock or something.
See, my plan is I'm going to use one of Skell's favourite movies as a reference here, right? Yeah. I'm going to be like the Joker in The Dark Knight, where he has a different story every time he explains his scars. Yeah. I'm going to give a different prediction on every preview that I do during this week, just to cover myself enough. So I think I was on beat of the weekend just gone by, and I was like, gave an argument for, I think Galway match up really well physically with this Limerick team, and we saw what they were able to do against Cork and how good they were on Cork's puck out last weekend. But I just think Limerick will, even if they do come up against it, I think they'll just have maybe those extra few percent to get over the line. So I'm going Limerick, but very narrowly. What I'm going to do is next prediction I do, whether that be on off the ball during the week or on the last word or somewhere else, I'm just going to go, I've got this feeling about Galway,
You can't do it.
Why not? And then everyone will be confused. They'll go, what was he on about?
No. Yeah, and they'll say he's a people pleaser. You don't know what he's
yes, man.
Snake.
Man.
He sells snake oil. Yeah. Like I was there, but you know what? I was actually kind of happy in one way that these predictions are the worst thing going, because as soon as we get off air, I actually couldn't give a shit who wins the final. Like I actually don't care. I don't, Skehill. I don't care. But the thing is, then, like basically last Monday, Cameron Hill and Myrna O'Connell and myself were on Ireland AM, and she said, who's going to win it real quick? And I was actually happy where I didn't have time to think, and I just went, what did my gut say? Galway. But genuinely now, like my brain, my gut is going, Galway, go with it, stick with it. And my brain is going, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you saying that, Limerick? So,
by the way, I love how lads get irked by pre-match predictions. And appreciate at the moment, right? It is now Sunday, not to give too much away, coming up to 8:30 on Sunday as we're recording this preview now at the moment, right? We have no idea what happens. We're going based on, Michal said last week, hopeful about Rory Burke. We're going on the fact that, John Kiley said that Lynch is flying, but we don't know if he's going to have a setback to his hamstring. We have no idea at this stage. So much could change between now and the weekend. There might be a fundamental change in our prediction between now and then. We're just calling it as we see it now. I saw some Mayo supporters yesterday who were going, I'm going to stick to that Paddy Andrews on the football pod. Nobody was picking us last week. They were all going for Louth, and Louth are the media darlings. As if like that was really important. Like I did 2 lengthy previews on the football and off the ball last week. And I certainly got the feeling from most of the pundits I spoke to who went, Louth have got a really good shout going this weekend, but nobody wrote off Mayo. There was nobody saying anything outrageous like Mayo are going to get beaten out the gate and this is 100% not going to happen for them. Everyone went, I think this is going to be a close game. As it turns out, Mayo took total control of the second half of that game and they won. If I was a Mayo supporter, I'd be delighted they've gone through to the final. The last thing that would come into my mind would be, what did lads predict on podcasts on the week just gone by? Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Who cares? If the three of us back Galway, Limerick are not going to be putting that up in the dressing room at the weekend to go, the Hurling Pod actually think Galway can win.
Yeah, it's the worst part of doing, like, I think we enjoy talking about the matches before and we enjoy talking about them afterwards. The predictions are just the biggest load of horseshit because it's just like, oh God. Because the one thing we know about it is that, again, the script being ripped up is the best part about all this. We're just we talk about matchups and we talk about lads going to do this, to going to do that. How much of it comes true on a day? If 50% of it comes true, great. That's not a bad day's work.
But sure, if we could spend ages going, I think there's a good chance that Rabbit goes in on Dan Morrissey and then Mike Casey starts.
Yeah, and nobody's talking about a draw, even though it's that close. Nobody's saying, what if it goes to a draw and it goes to a replay? Do
Don't think Scales Hart can take that.
I'd have a hashtag one.
Well, it's horrendous.
I imagine.
But
so heavy, no one to get me out of the Hogan.
What were you hitting? Around 140 beats per minute was it the last day?
136. Oof. I got a text message on my phone to say you've had a super stressful day. Sit down. The watch does that, yeah. Go away. I mean, my heart rate now, like when I sat down, was 47. I'm now at 75. It's just like you guys talking is making me nervous. Like, I hate this. I don't like this at all.
Yeah.
That's why I like watching films over and over because I know the fucking ending. Right? So it's grand. Like, Jesus.
Let's see if we can get him up over 80 before the pod finishes. That should be our aim.
So, Will, you were saying I want you to.
I'm actually not going to change my mind. Am I joking about the idea of changing it in previews? But I do think that Limerick are going to win. But
much.
Not by much scale, to be honest. And do you know what? I am very wary of that Limerick prediction when I think of what Clare did in the first half of the game. What would reassure me if I was a Limerick fan would be the way they played in the second half, and particularly the way they closed out those last 15, 20 minutes of the game, which is very Limerick of old. And a lot of the kind of good aspects of Limerick were there. Loads of shots. As you mentioned, their puck-out retention, all those type of stuff. They're all the things you set your watch to when it comes to Limerick. And when the chips are down, I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I did enjoy the fact that John Kiley changed the narrative entirely after the game. Entirely. Where he came in and it wasn't about relief or whatever, which was generally, I think, the feeling after the game. For a lot of people were, Jesus, they must really feel they got out of jail. He was talking about resilience. He was talking about character. He was talking about all these things. You would swear they had just put in the best performance of all time and the most accomplished performance of all time. And he almost would have you believing that they had just come out of a massive battle and they had really, really stood up. And if that's the messaging he's given in the dressing room, I can only imagine the confidence that must instill in the Limerick players afterwards. He is a brilliant communicator. And you mentioned there the clip with Tommy, which I thought was really, really good entertainment aside from anything, saying that, the fans needed to get a G up and they weren't doing their job at that point and whatever else. Man, I was sitting right in front of the Limerick supporters. We were at the very back of the press box and there was Limerick people all around us. They didn't stop cheering all game. They were noisy all match. But now when it goes to the final, it'll put in the back of their mind, if we're going, we need to get behind the team. Jeez, if John is saying that we're not quite doing our job, it's almost like that subtle messaging is there now. If you were allowed in the semi-final or you were allowed in the Munster final, you better bring it just a little bit more. And again, I kind of like the idea as well that he's not able to watch the other matches. Because straight away, if he did or not, it takes the pressure away from this idea of him having to analyse Galway straight away. If he goes, I didn't see the game. It'll be midweek before I see it. You can't really go, well, John, what did they do right? Well, I didn't see it. I was out walking the dog, And again, it was very Roy Keane to say he was out walking the dog as well. So, I did enjoy that out of Kiley too. I think sometimes he doesn't get the credit for his communication skills, but I thought he was brilliant in the aftermath of that. And usually I write off press conferences as nonsense. Usually most of the time they're very dry. But sometimes they're fun. Andy Moran yesterday as well, just saying, are any of you guys going to write the fact that Mayo are going to win All-Ireland? Well, then why do you give a shit about our fans losing the head? We're going to worry about ourselves.
Yeah, he made a very good point though as well, where he said we've been starved of success, as in we haven't been successful. And I do It's a valid question to ask. This thing, as a journalist, is a valid question to ask because you're trying to look into everything in to run to this match. And it was a valid point for Joe to make last week about, questioning did the hype feed into Cork. So it's a valid question to ask then as well about Mayo. Yep. But it's also great to see, a manager coming out and reacting very openly and transparently, and it not having a real bad effect. It's not frontline newspaper stuff this morning or anything. And the thing is, well, look, Kylie has done this previously though, where he's like, well, we need all the Limerick fans to come out. And it's not a crazy call or anything like that. But he does turn around and say, listen now, lads, you have to do your thing now as well, So it is but you look at Ben O'Connor as well. He's been kind of, he's been breaking through kind of new ground in terms of the way the press conferences are had this year. So it's good.
I think Kylie as well just warned against complacency. He was exactly the same when Limerick were at their absolute pomp. And I think what you don't want as a manager to ever seep through to players, to supporters, to anyone within the county is this idea of we're at the top and we'll get a little bit soft while we're at the top. I think Kylie always wanted to have it as we need to stay hungry, we need to stay humble, and that was what will keep the train moving, so to speak. So yeah, he keeps it going. Also, I thought was kind of funny, I just want to talk about Kilkenny a little bit before we finish, but how universal some of these things are. You boys were talking about tickets and all that. So Shane Long, I was doing a fundraiser for the Irish Heart Foundation, which is the reason I was in Tipperary last night, and just chatting to Shane and asked him a bit about his relationship with Roy Keane and whether Keane had gone off him at any point while O'Neill and Keane were in charge. The only night that himself and Roy Keane had squared up against each other was the night that Shane Long came off the bench and scored the goal against Germany in 2016.
And why did they square up?
Because Long was on the phone before the game started, trying to get the QR code over to his mother to pass the tickets on for her to get into the ground.
Oh Jesus!
No, and Keane was giving out that he was unfocused, that he wasn't ready to play. Yeah.
And did he square up to him afterwards or before it?
No, it was before the game.
Fucking hell!
And then as Long was saying it, he says Keane would probably say he motivated him by getting in his face before the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was what a way to stick. But he was saying ticketing was the concern. So it was whatever happened, his mum, he was trying to get the digital ticket over to her, and as often happens, whoever's meant to be giving him the ticket from the FAI was slow in passing it across, and then it went to his email as opposed to his mum's email, and he was trying to pass it on. And he's trying to get all this done because the concern is, just got to get the family and get my mum in to watch the game and whatever else. And he was saying, this was an hour or 2 hours before kickoff. It wasn't that time when you needed to be zoned into everything. But Keane, of course, was like, "What the fuck you doing on the phone?" And then turned into a bit of a row, and they laughed it off afterwards. But that's the only time he had a big row with Keane. Loves his hurling, Shane Long, by the way. I sent to you afterwards. He said he's a hurling man.
But he hurled minor against Kilkenny, didn't he?
You played against him. Yeah, and he was. So the story he told me about this. So on his team, he had Woodlock. Obviously, he was going on to be a really good manager with the underage teams in Tipperary. And he was saying that Darragh Egan, who was manager of Wexford, of course, a few years ago, was part of that minor group as well. Was saying it was good lads, and maybe the boys who came a few years later that would have filtered into the team at the end of the 2000s and into the start of the 10s was probably a more stellar minor team. But he was saying he played 2 All-Ireland semi-finals in a row at Croke Park. Still thinks that's the highlight of his career, so Croke Park is still his favourite stadium to play in, even having played in Wembley and other places you might think, Anfield or Wembley or Old Trafford would be your choice. And then he was saying to me as well that the third year he was minor. So he was he got in the minor team at 15 because under 18 back then. So he played in minor semi-finals at 15 into when he was turning 16, 17. And then the year when he was playing 17, 18 was meant to be Tip's shit hot season. And he did a deal with Pat Dolan, who was the manager of Cork City at the time, because he started with Cork as well, that Pat said if you lose the first round of the Munster Championship, you quit hurling and you come play pre-season with us. And because Tipperary were the overwhelming favourites to win Munster and the All-Ireland that season, Long shook on it. And then they lost to Limerick and Cork in the first round of the championship, and he ended up playing football all year instead.
Yeah. Jesus.
That was the end of his hurling. But he was a very late adopter into football, for a guy who goes on to be an international footballer. Because about 14 months after that minor game that they lost against Limerick, he was telling me he made his debut in the Premier League.
Jesus, that's crazy.
He only had playing 2 games for Cork City, got transferred as part of the Doyle deal to Reading. There was a lot of Irish guys over in Reading at the time, including Pat Dolan's brother was involved in recruitment.
Stephen Hunt as well, wasn't he?
Stephen Hunt as well. And Doyle, when Doyle got picked up, it was basically a case of, when Long got picked up, it was a case of they come over to scout Doyle with Cork City and they spotted Long. And he ended up moving for, I think he was telling me they paid the princely sum of 10 grand to sign him.
It's a great return. He's a fast Premier League goal, isn't he?
Yeah, still does, yeah. And
7 seconds.
Ended up selling him to West Brom for 6.5 million in the end.
Jesus.
Yeah. Loves his hurling. I was very convinced to get him. I was almost convinced to get him on the hurling pod. We were kind of chatting away, and then I kind of felt bad because he was racing back to England, and he's in this terrible situation. He was telling me as well, where he has an English wife and now English kids, and so his son is like a massive England fan. And despite his very best efforts to go, support Ireland, he's like, all their mates support England. Like, he's grown up in England. Half the family is England because of his wife. Yeah. What can you do? He was like, I'll support Norway, but my family are supporting England tonight. So he was hoping to get back to watch them in the semi-final. So that was Shane Long, top lad in Tipperary. And there were a good few Hurling Pod people there, because they come up to me afterwards and went, love the pod. And I kind of thought, we talking about football here? Like, no, I love the Hurling Pod. Right, very good. So they were in there. Hopefully they had a good night with Shane Long as well. Henry Shefflin then. I'm going to come to you on this first, Gail, because I heard Murph on Off the Ball Breakfast. Basically, I passed off to Murph during the week. I couldn't do Tuesday morning. And I said to Enda, the producer, I went, you know what? The best man to do your report card on the teams in the championship so far this year are Murph. And then he came back and said, he's agreed and he's coming on. It's delighted to have him on. And then the Henry Shefflin news broke that night just before he was due to come on. Couldn't have been better timing.
Did no report card. So like Enda texted me.
He said, Shefflin.
He texted me earlier that day and was like, will you come and do the report card? I was like, what's the report card? He's like, it's like you're grading him like you're a teacher. He said, I'll send John one that Tommy did on the football here. And looked at it and went, grand. You give him like a C or a B or whatever. And I was like, that's grand. I was getting into bed then that night. And news of Henry of being manager just broke. And he texted me and said, scratch all that. You're going to talk about Henry. And I was on for like 45 minutes talking about Henry. So I was like, I thought it was like 10 minutes scorecard, 40 minutes Henry. Yeah. So,
and it worked out very nicely as well, because we'd moved Richie Hogan's appearance on Off the Ball in the evening back by just a few minutes. Moved it back by a few. And back he went.
He hasn't got it, has he?
Okay, fine. Do you want to deal with this first before we do Shefflin? So I'm chatting away with Richie, right? And this is the joy of clips, because you
didn't see this, Skehill, did you?
I made my business when we went in the WhatsApp group. I said, I need to find out what this is about.
Yeah.
And Richie hung it.
He hung it. No, he 100% did. But just to defend myself here for a second, my question was taken out of the clip. This is the crap part about clips, right? So what happens is you get the start of it where Richie is having a little cut at Murphy, and that ends up transitioning back into Richie starting to answer the question. And the point I was making was, I remember talking to Murph and Tommy. I remember we made a little kind of mini documentary for Off the Ball. Yeah. And I was chatting to both of you, and you were telling me about what it was like maybe when you first came in training. And both of you were pointing it out. It was like, Jesus, you're coming around, you've all these lads who've won All Irelands, and it's a bit mad. You look around, and it's like, that's that lad that I would have I was idolised and whatever. And I was asking Richie how he felt going in.
Yeah.
And of course, Richie was like, But Paul Murphy had it easy, was essentially what he said by comparison to me, because I was the shit hot young player coming in. While for Murphy, no problem. Paul Murphy disputes this, so I'll offer him the floor now.
Being dropped twice, I got a nice little. Is that like a nice handy little entry brought in? I remember it was just such. It was like, why are you including me in your story about yourself playing for Kilkenny? So like my entry to Kilkenny was 2008. Hurled right cornerback for the first time with the under-21s in Parnell Park. They call me in then to play training matches then. Say, listen, you fill up the numbers. So, geez, 100%. And then basically, whatever player gets injured on the field, you could be hurling corner forward, you could be hurling centre forward, you could hurl midfield. You're just that player. Like, so I was doing that. Following year then, get brought in, dropped by the end of the league. I hurled centre forward against Antrim. Like, so I wasn't playing kind of even remotely close. Scored 3 points, but I wasn't playing remotely close to a position, and didn't take my opportunities either. Following year 2010, called in. I think I played less in 2010 even in the league, and dropped again. And then in 2011, came back and just about got in. I think Tommy was injured for the match against Wexford in the championship. Michael Kavanagh, I don't know, was he injured? John Dalton had a red card suspension anyway. So myself and Paddy Hogan started, and I just about, I'd say, got the berth for the next match then. That was it. But that was after 2 years of being dropped. And Richie just goes, yeah, Paul had a handy one when he came in. He was just straight in there and just arm around the shoulder. I was like, yeah, bollocks. I texted him afterwards. I was like, why did you send me down? Yeah, why did you send me down to make yourself look better? And as always, Richie didn't even explain himself. He just kind of got on with it and was like,
didn't explain himself.
He doesn't explain himself, no. He's a bollocks.
Or I can sense the hostility here. I
was coming away. We hurled my car. Was that Tuesday night, Will? Was that
Tuesday night? Yeah.
We hurled my Carricky Boris on Tuesday night and was driving out of the field.
Hello, quick looking off the ball's Instagram here. What's going on?
Yeah, I was sitting in the car park and I just flicked it up and I said, sure, of course, off the ball. What did they do? Tag you in it. They're like, oh, make sure Paul Murphy sees this evening. Tag me in it. And I was like, the very first line. Now, of course, clickbait. They were like, oh, Paul Murphy had it handy. And I was like, fell for it, bought it, didn't ask any questions as to what the question was for it. But yeah.
I appreciate, by the way, it comes across as far less of a dig if my question was actually in there.
Completely.
But, Sinead.
That's showbiz.
Murph, I'm interested to know, when you approached Richie about it after the fact, was there any signs of an apology or correction or context, or did you just avoid it?
I'm trying to remember here now, right? I'll see if I can play the voice note that I sent to him, which basically is like, you bollocks. What? And I won't say the comment he exactly said back to me, but he basically said, I'm very touchy. That's all it was. There was no sort of it. But yeah, I sent him a voice note. I was like, who the fuck are you? And what's wrong with you that you're doing this?
Play it, please. Do it. Sure. And if it's really bad, we'll cut it out. We'll just
yeah. Go on. Go back and make sure it's the right message, first of all. The last thing I want to do is play the wrong one.
Yeah. Let me check here now.
It's okay. I'm not talking to Richie this week. He's talking to Seamus Flanagan on Thursday night.
Now, I'll see. I hope I don't say that. You're cutting this if it's bad now.
Yeah. Well, no guarantees. Go on.
The fuck are you after? Paul might...
Oh wait, sorry. I'll do that again. It for some reason went to.
Yeah, if it goes too close,
I went too close
speaker,
there.
Yeah.
Rewind.
Take 2.
Where the fuck are you after? Paul might have been welcomed with open arms. I was butchered. But why? I was dropped twice, Richie. What the fuck? Yeah, I just cruised in there and lads were fucking giving me foot massages. You're a fucking bollocks, you.
And then he was like, God, you're awful moody. He basically said back to it.
So no apology.
That man wouldn't apologise. He would see it as losing ground if he apologised.
Yeah, no. Never back down, double down.
And if you're explaining yourself, you're losing. Isn't that the other one?
Absolutely.
So. There was probably a lot of swearing in that, though, for, I don't know. I know.
Don't worry.
We had Johnny Glynn 2 weeks ago.
I was going to say, anyone listening to Johnny Glynn swear barrel from 2 weeks ago, and I believe we might be going for a pint with Johnny Glynn next week.
He's coming home.
Yeah. Well, we did promise him. We said if we get to the final, we'll go for a pint with you. So
yeah, just
be good to our word.
I'll say, man, he's a big man. He can
put them away.
He can put it away, lads.
Right. I'm not getting off the beaten track. We heard Paul's take on Shefflin. Skehill, what's your take on former Galway manager Henry Shefflin taking over Kilkenny?
It was always going to happen at some stage. Well, to be fair, I was surprised it was going to happen now. I thought when he took over the 20s job last year that he'd go, let's say, maybe 2 or 3 years. But the fact that Derek Ling, stepped down, I was going to say so soon, so abruptly. I don't know what the right phrase is. I thought Ling would do another year or two. Mm-hmm. This is my position now. Let's say go back 4 or 5 months ago. I didn't think Kilkenny would be as to be honest, would be as poor in the championship as they were, and thus put pressure on Derek in his position. So I think I would become a bit soon. I was surprised he made the jump in 1 year because it may create a little bit of imbalance in the whole thing. But I'd say from a Kilkenny perspective, as a young hurler or a person on the panel already, you'd have to be delighted. You'd have to be delighted that the most successful player in your county's history is taking the reins. And taking the reins in a tough situation, which means he's not shying away from it. Mm-hmm. So he's coming in at potentially probably the most pressurizing situation as a Kilkenny manager that we'd know in recent history. Is that fair to say, Murph? I don't think Kilkenny have been in this position. They haven't for the last 2 decades, in this kind of position where it's perceived crisis, you know what I mean, that we haven't won in a long time, and the way the championship unfolded this year was poor. So now he's taking the reins, and that's admirable in itself, I have to say. Because sometimes managers can step into the position when things are going grand and there's not huge pressure, whereas this is the opposite. So I'd be watching, with watchful eyes. I hope he doesn't do a great job. Straight up, I hope he doesn't do a great job. It's the truth. It's the fucking truth. And I'm dying to see who he brings on with him.
Yeah.
Because management teams, backroom teams now, they're only as good as the collective, in my opinion. One time he used to be the manager in 1 or 2, whereas now we know there's a high double digits in terms of people who are involved in the whole setup, whether it be nutrition, S&C, psychology, medical, you name it. It all adds to the overall, output of the management team. So I don't know who he has or what he has or who he's going for.
I can tell you one, Mark, because we're in the middle of talking about Richie on Tuesday. Well, David Herity obviously being the first one as his head hurling coach.
I didn't hear it now, sorry.
Because I was chatting to Richie about it, and obviously we were waiting to see, because there have been plenty of reports and tip that Herity had already informed them that he was going back to Kilkenny at that point, and I'd say he would have had to put his name forward when Shefflin was doing the interviews a few weeks ago. And straight away, Arthur, who's produced on the night, I could see his phone was dinging in the control room. And next thing, a message comes through to me through the chat that we used during the show, which went, off the ball can say that they understand that David Herity will be coming on board as head hurling coach. It wasn't even a case of off the ball can understand that David Herity could be part of the management team or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like he is the head hurling coach for next season. So,
which is that's timely in the sense that like, what he's done now in Kildare, Tipperary, plus others, Murphy might be involved with club teams I don't know. Like it's timely. Like he's done enough, you would say, groundwork to warrant the position of head hurling coach. I didn't hear that segment now, Will, so forgive me. This is the first time.
That's okay.
But what he's carried through different counties, surely, and like the biggest probably thing or issue that has to be dealt with in Kilkenny, I think, is the adaptation to the modern style game. That's fair. That's not me being fucking facetious and happy. I just think that if you can move away from what made you so great in the traditional approach, and in towards a more modern style, that's probably a challenge that's going to have to be met face on. And I think if you've got Herity with you, plus others, there could be others within Kilkenny I don't know about that you would know from the club scene that could provide that kind of assistance too. I would have assumed Richie O'Neill would go with Shefflin. He seems to go most places with Henry. Yeah. It sounds like it's 3, and you probably add 2 more, and then you fill out with backroom team. So yeah, it'll be a space that'll want to be watched. But like I said, and I repeat, don't do a great job. I don't want to do a great job. I want 6 Leinsters in a row now, Murph. You've had your fucking Leinsters. I want 6 in a row. Okay.
Murph be happy enough if he can live in All Ireland, whatever with the Leinster. So yeah, there you go. Henry Shefflin in. I say we wait to see what the rest of the backroom team is going to look like. But that is the news we have from Kilkenny in the week.
Question.
Go on.
Murph, the Trinity manager, who would that be? Any word on the street there?
I don't know. Like I wondered, would Brian Hogan stay on as 20 manager, or will he go to the senior team like he was with Henry last year? And I was kind of, Hoagie went with Henry. But like Hoagie has been forging his own path at the moment as a really good manager. So I wonder now, does this actually kind of work out well? Maybe. Like I'd say Henry might love to take Brian. I don't know. Or maybe Brian wants to stay as the 20s manager. So I think that could be a case where they approach Brian Hogan and say, listen, that'd be, you have continuity from last year. Because I'd agree with you, what you said at the start. Like I'd say the plan was that Henry would stay for about 3 years. And then at that stage, go for the senior job. But the fact that he's stepping away now, going to the main job, it might be a chance for Brian Hogan goes, actually, I'll take the 20s. And
that's not a bad move though, Murph.
It's great move.
If you've got 2 guys, let's say, who are friendly, both off the pitch and on it, it's great to have continuity because the 2 teams are connected whether they like it or not.
Oh yeah,
because the age profile of players, as we know, is coming down every year. So you would presume, wrongly or rightly, that there will be a number of the 20s from last year and this year's panel on the senior panel. So you'd need some kind of collective thinking, because the worst thing you do is if they go off in 2 different tangents.
Completely.
Because then nobody wins,
Yeah. Especially if you're trying to change that style of hurling. The last thing you'd want is maybe one team playing in one way and the other team playing the other. Yeah. You won't be able to bridge it. Okay, we've hit the 2-hour mark, which is usually a good time for us to wrap. I do think just on that, my kind of final thought would be, I think Kildare were very sensible, whereby I think it was totally understandable that Brian Dowling would want the Kilkenny job, so his name went forward as part of the nomination stage. Kind of understanding seems to be that he was well considered by the Kilkenny County Board as part of that. Henry Shefflin gets appointed, and then within 24 hours of Henry Shefflin's appointment, Kildare confirm the re-ratification of Dowling as their manager for next season. I think that's exactly what you want to do. His first 2 seasons in charge, Christy Ring to Leinster, did okay in the Leinster Championship, albeit got relegated last season. You want to keep him on board. So I think let him talk to his own county. Didn't work out in the way that was maybe hoped on his part. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and you keep him around, and you keep a good manager for next season. So I think that was a very sensible decision by Kildare, because other counties have done this, where where someone goes to talk to their own county and they go, well, you're going to have to resign with us before you go in for any potential job there. It's almost seen as an affront. I think if you're Kildare, you kind of realise we're in a development stage. This is a really good manager. Totally understand why you'd want to pursue that role. If it doesn't happen, we're here with open arms, and let's continue the journey that we're on together. So I think that was a very sensible decision by Kildare in the weekend just gone by as well. Our special guest, friend, we got to the end and went, where the fuck is the guest? We're going to do it next week because, again, the good weather somewhat spoiled our plans, because our guest is out working outside at the moment because of the really good weather we have. So hopefully Monday after the All-Ireland final, the weather will have turned at that point and he'll be available to come on. All I'm going to say is, and this will be a small hint, it's 30 years since he won an All-Ireland title.
I'd say you've essentially given it away.
No, it was
about the last few weeks.
There was 20-odd people on that panel.
Which panel?
That panel. Don't say
the team that won that All-Ireland.
No, but wasn't there other hints you given out already?
Oh, Jesus.
I'll say nothing.
Say nothing. Okay. Well, if anyone is piecing together at this point, they're a good pod listener.
it'll be a nice story.
Absolutely. It's going to be a class story. I can't wait to have him on.
Yeah.
I was more than happy for us to go. You know, when we were kind of talking this through.
I got it.
Yeah.
I did get it. But when we were talking this through, right? You said he might not be able to do this Sunday, and I was like, this is one of the few guests I would push to next week. So,
yeah, if he's available in September, we're doing a special pod. I'm just saying, it needs to be done.
We are due, I think, one pod after we finish the run of pods next week. So again, if there's a particular special guest, right, and if somebody has made it to 2 hours on the audio pod at this stage or 2 hours on the video, hit us up with suggestions of a one-off episode that you would like, maybe a 1 hour sit down with somebody. Like, I mean, a guest that we go down and we chat to them for an hour. Who would you like in an ideal world? Because I think we'll have hit a lot of the hits by the end of this with the people that we got on. The Rock was brilliant. Johnny was great. The next guest is going to, I think, be fabulous as well. And I haven't heard them do a whole lot of interviews recently either. Anyone else you want to hear from, stick them in the comments. And I'll suggest it to the lads. And we could potentially do it for the last pod of the year in a few weeks' time. How's about that?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. That is our lot. Of course, our thanks to Applegreen as well for sponsoring throughout the season, helping you relax, recharge, and enjoy the journey ahead. The journey is now all about Croke Park next Sunday. Can you tell us, Murph, who's on the BBC next week, or is that still under wraps?
It's not under wraps. They haven't told us. They were focusing on football this weekend. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd expect
similar to the
Seamus Flanagan, Neil McManus, James O'Connor. I'd say the big difference might be who they'll bring in, like who the addition.
Yeah. Would they bring it on again, reckon?
Would very well be, but you'd wonder whether O'Donnell maybe is kind of going.
That'd be a nice shout.
Going to stay away from the limelight at the moment,
maybe. And obviously the option's now open that they could go for a Cork or a Clare player after the semi-finals, who naturally you had to wait and see who won the semi-finals before you make a decision on them. So the options are open, as they say. You're going to the match, Skehill. You have one ticket. Is this an appeal to get another one, or are you confident you'll get more?
I'll check what I can get, my friend.
Fair enough. Anyone has a ticket? Contact James Skehill. You'll find him online. He's on Instagram now as well as on Twitter.
I can pay in turf when I go to you.
It's a great way to pay.
We'll deliver.
Yeah, 100 quid for a ticket. Turf might be worth more than. It might be worth more than a ticket by the end of it if someone's got a spare one going. You can get him there. We were kind of saying earlier on, I think all three of us are using Twitter a lot less than we did previously. Just Twitter's just a bit of a shithole at the moment. But James Skehill is on Instagram, so if you want to get him there, pop him a DM and he'll sort you out with turf for tickets, is what we call it. All right, Paul Murphy, we'll see you next week. Just to warn everybody, we're just there was loads of things we'd love to do a live pod and whatever else. Normally, I would say 1,000,000% that's a great idea, but I think because Skehill's own county is in it, you'll forgive us for doing a Monday pod. I think it would be utterly stupid if we went, yeah, sure, if Galway have won or lost, we'll pull Skehill straight on to do a live. I don't think it's the right time. Let's do Monday. It gives Murph a chance to go out with his BBC colleagues after the game as well. We'll reset and we'll do Monday evening. I'll set a time for it.
I'm coming.
Well, he can go out with them too, yeah.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
Do it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're carrying the Lee McCarthy over the Shannon, which you could be.
That'd be Monday though.
Yeah, I suppose. But just make sure you have it carried over the Shannon before the pod. Is that all right?
100%.
Get back to Capitagle. Be ready to go.
Stop and get nervous. I don't know.
Right. Enjoy the final. He's as nervous can be. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks, lads.
The Hurling Pod.
On Off the Ball.
With Applegreen. Making every journey better.